Chapter 1067. Normally, the 7-star Ghost King would have been able to avoid Lu Chen's attack. But the key was that he had been shocked by the power of the heaven-burning earth fire and had lost his will to fight. Moreover, their initial mission was to pester Little Beast and the other two. They were used to avoiding direct confrontations. The skill that should not have hit him so easily landed a punch on his body. On the other side, Little Beast and the other two quickly joined the harvesting team. Etion heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that there was no suspense in the rest of the battle. Perhaps this is the effect of the coercion. Etion said, "It makes the enemy cower before the battle. This way, even if the opponent is strong, he will not be able to exert his combat power." Thousand Stone Bao could not help but sigh. 1-star Emperor Xiao can actually make a 7-star Ghost King realm super expert cower in fear. What kind of strange situation is this? I think only our Dean can do this. As expected, the remaining 10 Soul Guardians were quickly killed by Lu Chen and the rest. After the battle, except for the road leading to the City of Dead Souls, the area where the Cultivator Army was, and the area covered by the Spirit Coffin and Ghost Coffin was still intact, the other areas had become a huge abyss. Even the flowing magma could be seen. Standing on the original plane now was like standing on the top of a cliff. Most of the 40 Soul Guardians had turned into ashes. Only a few unlucky ones were still in Little Furball's stomach. After the battle, Little Furball became a white mouse again and jumped onto Lu Chen's shoulder immediately. Little Beast and Originator also returned to Lu Chen's side. "Dad, did you just learn that move?" "It's too powerful," Little Beast said. Lu Chen smiled. "I got it when I was at the 5th heaven, but I never practiced it. It's quite powerful, but the consumption is too terrifying. I can't use it until I achieve soul-body unification." Little Beast nodded. "That's true. It would be a bit exaggerated if such a terrifying skill could be used continuously. Dad, where are we going next?" Little Beast was energized at the mention of the next arrangement. "We are not tired at all." Lu Chen's face darkened. In terms of endurance, he was really inferior to Little Beast and the others. This was especially true for Su Qianxuan. The fact that Su Qianxuan was getting stronger and stronger was the biggest bug in itself. Lu Chen looked ahead. "Let's go, Li Wei." "Li Wei? Oh, was it that big sister from earlier? Dad, are you getting married? Then she's my stepmother, right?" Lu Chen was just about to fight to the death when the little critter's sudden question made him feel like a deflated balloon. "What stepmother? She and I are just friends." Lu Chen glared at Little Beast. "Just friends? I've heard that there is no true friendship between men and women." The little beast had a puzzled look on its face. Lu Chen almost spat out blood. This kid stayed outside for more than half a year. What did he learn? How did he know so much? "Dad, you're not young anymore. Hurry up and find a wife. Although I don't know that Sister Li Wei, I still prefer Sister Luo Yao. How about we bring Sister Luo Yao over when we reach the 5th heaven? When the time comes, you can mate and give me some younger brothers and sisters." PFFF. Lu Chen almost spat out several liters of blood. The little beast god was still a mythological beast in essence, so it was not wrong to say that it was mating. But why did he say it so easily? Well, the more he explained, the more difficult it would be to explain. Lu Chen was powerless to explain. "Now is not the time to talk about this. We have to go to the Eternal Soul Palace immediately." "Okay, Dad." Not long after, Yi Fan jumped over the cliff from the crowd to Lu Chen's side. His eyes rested on Little Beast for a moment. Especially when he saw Little Beast's 2-star King Realm badge, he could not help but gasp. How old was it? 2-star Human King? The most frightening thing was that from its strength, it seemed to be even stronger than a 2-star Human King. "Yi Fan, what's wrong?" Lu Chen looked at Yi Fan strangely. "Dean, Ma Bei and the others asked me to ask you if you want to return to the Yang world. We haven't rescued them yet. What's the point of going back? Besides, we can't wait for the King of Hell to release the experts of the Eternal Soul Palace." Lu Chen frowned. The King of Hell is controlling the Eternal Soul Palace. If he really releases the souls of those super experts, 6th heaven will not be able to hold on. Yi Fan said worriedly, "Dean, we know that. But you don't have soul-body fusion for a while. How are you going to fight against the 4 Ghost Kings? Lu Chen took a deep breath. I don't have time to rest now. I'm afraid that the next time I come to the underworld, the opponents will be even stronger. Also, it's hard to say if 6th Heaven can hold on until then. I have no way out. Yi Fan lowered his head and said, Dean will go with you. Lu Chen frowned. You guys should go back. The King of Hell's strength is terrifying. You should have seen it just now. My heaven-burning earth fire was still unable to break through the defense of the army of the dead. I'm guessing that the defensive barrier was laid down by the King of Hell. We know. It's because he's strong that we have to go. Yi Fan said firmly. Although our strength isn't enough to fight, Dean, don't forget that you still have dual heaven's might. We still have some use. Lu Chen was somewhat hesitant. He didn't have full confidence in fighting against the King of Hell. Once he lost, the people following him would probably die a miserable death. Dean, if you lose, it's the same as 6th Heaven losing. Where can we run to? Yi Fan suddenly said. Since that's the case, why don't we go all out and fight? Also, I don't know about others, but how can we, the people of the Demonic Academy, abandon the Dean? When we first joined the Demonic God Academy, didn't Marshal Uncle A.C. of Clouds say that if we wanted to defy the heavens, we had to join the Demonic God Academy? When it's time to defy the heavens, how can we shrink back? Lu Chen, who was still conflicted, suddenly felt relieved after hearing Yi Fan's words. His academy, his disciples, didn't disappoint him. Good, then follow me and kill the myriad ancient soul hall. Lu Chen said proudly. Dean, do you know where the myriad ancient soul hall is? Lu Chen took out the underworld compass and shook his head. Why isn't the myriad ancient soul hall's location marked here? Right now, I can only guess that it might be in the King of Hell City. At this moment, an arrow suddenly flew through the air. Yi Fan's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast as he grabbed the arrow. This arrow wasn't actually very fast. Its target seemed to be Lu Chen, who was looking down at the map, but it was a bit off. Yi Fan was just about to chase after the arrow when he suddenly discovered that there was a slip of paper attached to the arrow. He strangely handed the slip of paper to Lu Chen. After Lu Chen opened it, he suddenly froze and looked back in astonishment. There was nothing on the horizon. Dean, what's this? Yi Fan asked. Lu Chen frowned. 50 kilometers northwest of the King of Hell City is the myriad ancient soul hall. Yi Fan was also very astonished. Someone had actually sent them a message. Chapter 1068. In a remote mountain range in the underworld, a giant dragon circled around for a few times before suddenly accelerating and disappearing into the forest. That black dragon didn't leave. In fact, he had only shrunk his body and entered the territory of the army of the dead. This was a village near a mountain and a river. When the man returned, dozens of people walked out of the house in 2s and 3s. Hey Rui, how is it? Someone asked. The man said, I've already told that kid the location of the Myriad Soul Hall. Right now, he's bringing people there. The leader of the Black Dragons, the middle-aged man who had given Lu Chen the black gold dragon costume, walked out and looked toward the northwest. The Myriad Soul Hall. If we can kill the King of Hell and release the souls of the dead in the Myriad Soul Hall, the underworld can be considered restored and returned to its origin. I wonder if he can do it. Everyone was silent. Suddenly, He Rui looked up and said excitedly, Xianlong, should we go help him? The Black Dragon man froze and looked at the people behind him. The original underworld Black Dragon race had at least several 100,000 people, but now, there were only a few dozen left. If it were 2,000 years ago, I would have acted without hesitation. But now, we've all experienced too much and don't want to get involved in this battle anymore. Xianlong's voice was filled with weariness and vicissitudes. Leading the way for him is the most we can do. Xianlong, have you thought about it? Does the King of Hell really not know of our existence? Another clansman said, the reason he hasn't acted against us is probably because he doesn't have the time. When he unified the underworld, did he leave behind the bloodline of his enemies? The existence of the underworld Black Dragon race was originally a threat to him. Once he took over the Yang world with his personality, wouldn't he eliminate them by the roots? His words quickly resonated with many people. We don't want to fight for hegemony, we just want to live. Just like in the myriad calamity abyss, even if all hope was lost, weren't we still struggling at death's door? That's right, if we don't kill the king of hell, he'll kill us in the end. Have you forgotten how we were imprisoned in the myriad calamity abyss? Myriad Ancient Soul Palace was the most terrifying. Now that the king of hell controlled Myriad Soul Palace, he definitely knew how to use that move. When the time came, no matter how strong that brat was, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. We can't just hope for him to kill the king of hell, but we also know that the king of hell has a heaven-defying skill and do nothing about it. Qianlong became more and more agitated. He said angrily, "I want to help him, but how? Do you want us to exterminate our entire clan to help him? We are the only black dragons left in the underworld. We have endured humiliation for thousands of years. We have stepped on the corpses of our clansmen and lived an ignoble existence in this world. It was all for the dragon crystal inheritance. Are you going to use your own lives to help an outsider? What if he's another king of hell?" For a time, everyone fell into silence again. What Qianlong said was not completely unreasonable. After living for so long, they had long seen through the unfathomable nature of a person's heart. Heira lowered his head and kept shaking it. People like us don't deserve to live. These days, I keep thinking of the myriad calamity abyss and my clansmen who were devoured by me. I also think of the strange changes in the abyss and how I kicked my clansmen into the abyss. A smile suddenly appeared on his face, full of bitterness and helplessness. I still remember the ancestral teachings left by the dragon god to develop and strengthen the underworld dragon race. But now, in order to save the girl who saved him, that human didn't hesitate to charge into the underworld alone and fight against the army of the dead by himself. I don't believe that he's the king of hell. Moreover, he fused with the dragon crystal, so he's half of our kind. It's just that he hasn't fully unleashed the dragon crystal's power. I have to help him. Suddenly, Heirue raised his head and stared at Qianlong. "Qianlong, your dragon blood is the purest. You stay. I'll go." With that, Heirue turned around and transformed into a flying dragon that soared into the sky. "Heirue!" Qianlong anxiously shouted, but Heirue left without looking back. Qianlong could only helplessly shake his head. "Qianlong, Heirue alone doesn't have enough dragon blood. I'll go too." Another person also transformed into a black dragon. "I can't breathe because of this guilt. Anyway, I've lived for thousands of years, so I don't care anymore. I'll go too." If that human can't defeat the king of hell, the underworld black dragons can only wait to be exterminated. Since that's the case, even if it's just a gamble, it's better than sitting here and waiting for death. More and more clansmen flew toward the sky in the northwest direction. In the end, less than 10 clansmen remained by Qianlong's side. An old man walked up to Qianlong. "Qianlong, after so many years, I originally thought that I wouldn't believe in miracles anymore. And that day, when even the core of the underworld and the abyss of myriad calamities experienced abnormal changes, I finally understood that miracles still exist in this world. Among the cultivators, there's almost no one who can stick to their original beliefs. The Jiutian always has a way to make you give up your original beliefs, but if it's that person, I'm willing to take another gamble. Even if he's not another miracle, at least he's a chance for me to redeem myself." With that, the old man transformed into a slightly older black dragon and left the quiet village with the last group of clansmen. Suddenly, Qianlong was the only one left in the village. He looked at the empty village with a gloomy heart. Was I wrong? Qianlong let out a long sigh. After standing there for a long time, he returned to his house. "If you want to die, go ahead." Mabe arranged for his disciples to ride on their mounts and led Lu Chen and the others. The million-strong army of cultivators flew across the Spectre Plain, which had changed beyond recognition. Someone sent a message to Mabe, Pavilion Master Hai, and the others, saying that they had seized another entrance to the underworld. However, Mabe and the others couldn't feel happy at this time. The entrance to the underworld? Now, they knew that it wasn't the key at all. Even the main battlefield on the continents of the six heavens wasn't the key. The final battle between the underworld and the yang world was on their side. The fate of the six heavens was now in the hands of one person. This kind of pressure wasn't something that one or two entrances to the underworld could alleviate. Lu Chen sat on a huge wine gourd. This mount was a flying magic treasure. Although it wasn't very domineering, it was very fast. Racing against time, this was the current consensus of everyone. The gourd had a big and small head. Lu Chen sat cross-legged at the front of the gourd, concentrating on recovering his spiritual power and physical strength. The other people were squeezed behind. At this time, no one dared to disturb Lu Chen's recovery. The journey to the Eternal Soul Palace was very long. Even if they rode on a mount and traveled at full speed, it would take more than a day to arrive. At night, Lu Chen had already recovered. However, he still sat there quietly. He wasn't recovering his physical strength or spiritual power, but was adjusting his own state. The little critter looked at Lu Chen's back from afar with worry in its heart. In the past, when Dad fought, he rarely adjusted his state like this. This meant that Dad also knew that this battle would be a true life and death battle. Chapter 1069. The cultivator army on the dozens of mounts traveling with them was very vigilant. Everyone be careful. Nameless information came from an unknown source. We need to be careful that the other party is deliberately luring us there. The teachers on the mounts reminded. However, they didn't encounter any army of the dead along the way. Looking down from above, one could see the army of the dead in Dead Soul City, Ghost Soldier City, and Bailing City. The number was incalculable. These armies were like countless tributaries, moving in all directions. These army of the dead should be going to support the main battlefield. There are actually so many of them. The army of the dead is truly innumerable. No wonder the army of the dead on the main battlefield can't be wiped out. They actually didn't stop us. Even though the army of the dead discovered Lu Chen's group, they didn't do anything and only cared about moving. The two sides only brushed past each other. Etienne narrowed his eyes slightly. From the looks of it, the information that the headmaster received is basically not a trap. If they really wanted to kill us, it's impossible that they didn't do anything when we passed by several major cities. Mabe nodded and said, "Perhaps the four Ghost Kings are also waiting for the final battle. I really didn't expect that the final battle would be here." The Immortal Army was unimpeded and arrived above King of Hell City on the second day. Looking down, the King of Hell City could only be described as extremely exaggerated. Even from high up in the sky, one couldn't see the entirety of the King of Hell City. After flying for another 10 minutes, although the journey was unimpeded, the closer they got to the Myriad Soul Palace, the more nervous everyone became. "Look, isn't that tower over there the Myriad Soul Palace?" Everyone looked towards the northwest. Looking carefully, it wasn't a tower at all, but a large 7-story building. Such a tall building was very rare in the Yang world, so it was mistaken for a tower. Lu Chen opened his eyes and looked towards the palace. Is that the Myriad Soul Palace? Was that the final destination after death? In front of the main hall, there were only tens of thousands of army of the dead standing in 2 neat rows. The guards who could stand guard here should not be weak. Logically speaking, it was impossible for them to not see the immortal army. However, none of them raised their heads. They just stood there in an orderly manner. In front of the main hall, there was a spacious field paved with black stones. On the field, a person was sitting upright. There was a wooden table in front of him, and there was a pot of wine on the table. He poured himself a drink. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Was this one of the 4 great ghost kings? It seemed like he was already waiting for him. "Don't come any closer. Wait for me here. Little beast, let's go," Lu Chen said as he jumped down from the wine jug. When he was close to the main hall, he spread his wings to cushion the fall and landed steadily. Little Critter could fly, so it followed behind Lu Chen with Little Originator and Little Furball. When Lu Chen landed, he discovered that the tens of thousands of army of the dead around him were just empty shells. Their eyes were empty, and their faces were expressionless. There was no vitality to speak of. But the badges on their chests were abnormally terrifying. Ghost King Realm 7 stars, 8 stars, and even 9 stars. The ranks of the army of the dead were truly frightening. Such an army had the ability to crush any continent in the 6th heavenly layer. Just as Lu Chen was shocked, the person sitting there suddenly said, "It is indeed difficult to control the consciousness of these people. But fortunately, they will soon be completely under my control." Lu Chen recognized the voice of the person who spoke at the first moment. It was the voice that had spoken to him on the specter plane. In other words, the person sitting there was none other than the King of Hell, Demon Lord. Lu Chen's gaze fell on that person. This person was unusually tall and sturdy. He was a member of the deity clan. The appearance of the deity clan was not much different from that of human beings, but they were tall and sturdy. They had obvious divine bodies, which could be their eyes, arms, torso, tails, or dragon scales. It was said that they had the bloodline of God. Together with the demon clan and several other clans, they were known as the strongest clans in Jyotian. However, the number of the deity clan was smaller than that of the demon clan. But all the deity clan members were very powerful. This person had black hair and was at least 10 times bigger than Lu Chen. The huge devil horns on his head were bent backward in an exaggerated manner. It seemed that this was his divine body. The King of Hell, Demon Lord? Lu Chen slightly narrowed his eyes and lowered his voice. The immortal army was in an uproar. That person is the King of Hell? He is actually from our deity clan. Is such a huge body, devil horns on his head. I seem to have heard of such a person before. A deity clan disciple frowned as he tried to recall something, but he couldn't remember right away. He is the underworld ruler that unified the underworld, the King of Hell, Demon Lord. The strongest of countless experts. Mabe Immortal King, can you see his rank? Mabe coldly snorted, is there a need to see? To be able to kill his way out of countless experts, his rank must be the peak of the Ghost King realm. 9-star Ghost King, peak. Moreover, he was the strongest one among them. Many people didn't expect that the first person Nameless would meet after coming to Eternal Soul Palace would be the King of Hell, Demon Lord. The King of Hell's lips curled up as he said in a heavy voice, "Solipsistic, we finally meet." Lu Chen coldly snorted, "Where is Li Wei?" That person faintly smiled and clapped his hands. Not long later, Baxia carried the 9-beast jewel pagoda out of the hall. Nameless. At this time, the 9-beast jewel pagoda wasn't activated and Li Wei was awake. She looked at Lu Chen in shock. He and her son had chased her all the way here. Seeing that Li Wei was still alive, Lu Chen let out a breath of relief. The thing that he was most worried about didn't happen. Now he could focus on the next battle. Solipsistic, before the battle of life and death, how about having a drink with me? The King of Hell suddenly said. Don't worry. If you don't believe in my wine, you can use your own. I've already sent your woman to you. I won't touch your friends or subordinates. I just want to have a fair fight with you. Lu Chen slightly narrowed his eyes. At the very least, this King of Hell had the boldness of an overlord. Lu Chen walked to the table and sat down. He took out a jug of wine from his backpack and placed it on the table. The King of Hell saw this and smiled faintly. It seems that you still don't believe me. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Lu Chen sneered. Do you have any reason for me to trust you? The King of Hell didn't get angry. He only grabbed Lu Chen's jug of wine and poured himself a bowl. You don't believe me, but I can believe you. Whether it's the underworld or the yang world, the only one who is qualified to drink with me is you. This is a toast to you. With that, the King of Hell drained the bowl in one gulp. Lu Chen looked indifferently at the King of Hell drinking the wine and put down the bowl. Why aren't you content with the underworld and insist on attacking the yang world? Is it just for resources? With your current realm, you shouldn't care about resources. Putting down the bowl, the King of Hell looked at Lu Chen. As expected, the only one who understands me is you. I only have one reason for attacking the yang world. The King of Hell finished speaking and stared at Lu Chen with a burning gaze. Because I want to see what's above the Jyotian. Suddenly, Lu Chen was stunned. Chapter 1070. In the myriad of worlds, Lu Chen was definitely not the only one who wanted to rewrite his own fate. Master Spiritual Martial Apothecary, King of Wild Monsters, King of Hell, Demon Lord, perhaps only such a stubborn person would be able to stand at the pinnacle and do such an earth-shattering thing. Lu Chen subconsciously drank a bowl of wine. 8,000 years ago, I was defeated by a devil race expert. At that time, I was already a 9-star human king. I originally thought that I had failed, but when I came to the netherworld, I understood that this was my true stage. King Yama spoke of his past calmly, as if there were no ripples. Lu Chen looked at the King of Hell's demon horn. Your demon horn helped you retain your memories from when you were alive? The King of Hell smiled. That's right. As a member of the god descendant race, I didn't have any strong points. My attributes were more than twice as low as those of my race. The god descendant race is different from other races. They greatly cherish the bloodline of the gods. In my tribe, they said that my mother had committed adultery with a foreign race and burned my mother to death. My father fought with his life to protect her, but he was also seriously injured. They even wanted to cut off this. The King of Hell pointed at the huge demon horn on top of his head, as if he was talking about something ridiculous. At that time, even I suspected that I wasn't a member of the god descendant race. I also began to doubt the meaning of my existence. The stain of the god descendant race? The disgrace of your parents? Do such people deserve to live? The King of Hell drank another bowl of wine and said with a smile, however, even if I have to die, at least I have to avenge my parents' death. That night I ran away. I had 700 years and advanced to the 9-star human king realm. Then I killed the entire god descendant tribe. I still remember that day. They knelt in front of me and begged for mercy. They said that they were wrong, that they had eyes but failed to see. They said that members of the same race shouldn't kill each other. How ridiculous! Since members of the same race shouldn't kill each other, why did they burn my mother to death? Even my father begged me to stop. At this moment, Yama's expression was no longer as indifferent as before. When he spoke of his father, his emotions fluctuated greatly. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and his gaze seemed to pierce through the loss of control and return to that night. Ridiculous. Stop. If you weren't useless, how could my mother have died? As if he realized that his emotions were fluctuating, the King of Hell closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and calmed the resentment in his heart. And once again he looked to Lu Chen. That's why I killed of him. The entire tribe, from the top to the bottom, from the elderly to the children, I didn't let anyone go. The god descendant in the immortal army suddenly widened his eyes and looked at the flame devil sitting there in horror. Of god descendant of hell. I remember now, he's that person. Who is it? His companion asked. The of demon of demon? Of demon of, yes, that's a legend from several thousand years ago. The Mad King was originally the son of a very powerful god descendant race tribe. Later, it was said that his mother had an affair with another race and gave birth to him. His clansmen burned his mother and heavily injured his father. Then he escaped. A few hundred years later, he returned to the tribe as a 9-star human king and slaughtered 114,000 clansmen. He dug out their hearts and lungs and left them without a complete corpse. Heavens, I thought it was just a legend. I didn't expect it to be true. Hearing that person talk about the secret of the god descendant race, everyone's faces turned ashen. How powerful was a powerful tribe of the god descendant race? That was a top race. How could they be called powerful by normal people? But this person had slaughtered 130,000 people in one night. His strength was simply unimaginable. Lu Chen frowned. You said you only discovered the use of the devil horn after your death. You cultivated to the level of a 9-star king even though your conditions were far inferior to the average god descendant race? That's right, but that's not all. The King of Hell said, the Jiutian has endless opportunities. Even if I didn't have the demon sovereign's bloodline at the time, if even you humans with no strong points can cultivate, why can't I? It seemed that the King of Hell had obtained other opportunities. But from the King of Hell's description, it was clear that the King of Hell's strength was not just an empty reputation. Leaving his clansmen and having a backer, he didn't have the advantages of the god-descendant race. Instead, because of his status as a god-descendant, he would be targeted. But even in this situation, he had still cultivated to the level of a 9-star human king. Someone who walked up step by step like this was the most terrifying. But Lu Chen still thought of another person. Who was the person who had killed the King of Hell in the Yang world? This fellow was someone who could slaughter a god-descendant race tribe when he was alive. The King of Hell poured himself another bowl of wine. The wine is pretty good. Have those clansmen ever thought that the trash they called trash would now control their fates twice? Over the years, I have unified tens of thousands of tribes in the underworld and even sent people to the low-level underworld. Now, the 4 underworlds below the 6th layer of heaven and above the 3rd layer of heaven are under my control. I have already thrown the souls of those clansmen into the myriad tribulation abyss and turned them into ashes. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. This guy was really a little scary. He didn't even let people off after they died. Sigh, when talking about the past, I unconsciously became more talkative. Lu Chen asked, "Why are you telling me this?" The King of Hell smiled. For that woman, you didn't hesitate to charge into the underworld alone and slaughter 1,000,000 of my army of the dead. From this point of view, we are actually the same kind of people. Maybe it's because I was too lonely for so many years. Although the souls of the underworld retained their strength, their memories were wiped out. I had 10 billion subordinates, but no one could talk to them. Don't you think it's funny? Lu Chen said, "Is this also one of the reasons you attacked the Yang world?" No, as I said, I just wanted to see what was above the Jiutian. As for the people who can talk, you should know that there aren't many people like us, and those who are qualified to sit in front of me can be counted on one hand. Lu Chen suddenly laughed. You're wrong. We are not the same kind of people. Although I can't be considered a good person, I won't vent my anger on the innocent for my misfortune. Therefore, we can only be enemies and can never be friends. The King of Hell wasn't surprised and continued to drink. That's right, we are destined to be enemies. Lu Chen looked indifferently at the King of Hell. I have a few questions for you. The King of Hell was very generous. What questions? Do you have a flower of the underworld on you? The King of Hell smiled and took out a 6-petaled spider lily and placed it on the table. Is it this? Kill me and it's yours. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. This guy was really confident. You said that you control the underworld from the 3rd to the 6th layer, then, if a rogue immortal is released, will he also enter the underworld? Have you ever seen such a person? Rogue immortal? Although rogue immortals failed their tribulation and aren't considered true immortals, they are still beyond the control of the underworld. The King of Hell said, What? You want to find someone? I advise you to give up on that idea. Once he enters the underworld, he is no longer a person of the Yang world, unless he has the same ability as me. Lu Chen felt a little disappointed. Perhaps he really wouldn't be able to see Mu Xian again. Chapter 1071. Old Wine looked at the two below, shook his head, and sighed. This King of Hell does have the demeanor of a fierce and ruthless person. He actually has the leisure to invite the enemy to drink and chat. Xiao Zhan's expression was grave. This means that he has complete confidence. A great battle is imminent, but his heart is still as water. This kind of person is the most terrifying. Old Wine thought about it and agreed with Xiao Zhan's words. Indeed. In any case, I feel like I can't see through the King of Hell. However, what about the other 3 ghost kings? Why don't you ask them? Yi Fan said indifferently, Do you even need to ask? They're in the Eternal Soul Palace. They haven't stopped awakening the dead souls. The key to their ability to control the dead souls is the pair of devil horns on the King of Hell's head. Therefore, we have to kill the King of Hell. The King of Hell looked at Lu Chen and said, Any other questions? The King of Hell looked at Lu Chen and then at the 3 behind him. Then allow me to ask a question. That child is your battle pet, right? Of your 3 battle pets, one is the heaven-swallowing god-killing rat, and the other 2 I don't recognize. Interesting. Lu Chen smiled. If you kill me, you can take them. The king of hell stopped smiling. This solipsistic demon's confidence was no less than his. Alright, it seems that we both have things that the other party is interested in, and… The king of hell finally stood up and pressed a hand on the table. Suddenly, a burst of spirit energy exploded from the king of hell's hand. Then, with a boom, the table and the wine bowls all turned into dust. This is an intent type technique? Mabe's eyes widened. It's an intent type technique similar to disintegration. Touching it can disintegrate an object into dust. Pavilion Master Hai was also shocked. If that's really the case, then this Yama King Demon Venerable is too terrifying. If he touches you, you're dead. Mabe said, that's not necessarily true. Although concept-type skills are powerful, it's not like our defenses are completely unable to withstand them. Just like the nameless creation, as long as we're strong enough, it's not impossible to break through. Nameless also has a concept skill? Pavilion Master Hai was even more shocked. Why didn't I know about this? Mabe looked at Pavilion Master Hai in surprise. You want to know Nameless' strength? I can't even understand him. Alright, that was the truth. Nameless was definitely not weak. Otherwise, he would not be qualified to stand in front of the King of Hell. Without a doubt, these two people were both at the peak of their strength. Everyone's gaze became even more focused. The final battle was coming. The two of them did not open their mouths, but they could already feel the thick killing intent in each other's eyes. King of Hell's demon horns faintly emitted black mist. His expression was completely different from his previous calm expression. His red eyes were filled with thick killing intent. Although it's a bit of a pity, solipsistic, it's a pity that our battle is predestined. True God bloodline. With a boom, King of Hell's body exploded with shocking spiritual power. It was like a spiritual power ball formed by the collision of two powerful skills, instantly exploding in the field. High up in the sky, the immortal army could feel the intense spiritual power impact. My God, what kind of bloodline is this? It's only an additional status, but it can affect thousands of meters. It's already so terrifying. True God bloodline? My God, the Mad King is indeed a God descendant with true God bloodline. That God descendant's eyes widened, and his mind was in chaos. I've never seen such exaggerated spiritual power. No wonder this guy can unify the underworld. The two rows of Army of the Dead originally had empty eyes, but at this moment, their eyes suddenly lit up with red light as if they had come to life. Soul puppet technique? Lu Chen suddenly came to a realization. These fellows were not truly soul weapons with strong self-awareness. They were more like a type of puppet. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Little beast, I'll leave them to you. Dad, you focus on dealing with that guy. Alright, I'll give you a buff. 100 Beast Divine Technique Possession. Black Tortoise Inverse Armor. Little Beast helped Lu Chen increase the damage of his spell, Black Tortoise Armor. Little Beast was still in its youth stage, and the team's main skills were these two skills. Little Beast did not add Bloodline Bond to Lu Chen. Their opponents were puppets, so his feast could not suck blood, and naturally could not provide support to Lu Chen. After completing the buff, the three beasts stood behind Lu Chen, staring at the puppets around them, and entered battle mode at the same time. At the same time, Lu Chen quickly activated his skill. Divine Demon Symbiosis. His long hair instantly turned white and danced in the wind. Then, he activated War God Possession, Demon Transformation, Dragon Blood Boil, Emptiness of Gods and Demons Arm. After these buffs, Lu Chen actually added another skill. Divine Demon Heaven's Might. Divine Demon Dual Heaven's Might. Another 5 million attribute points. Seeing his dad activate Divine Demon Heaven's Might, Little Beast could not help but look back in surprise. After all, it was extremely rare for his father to activate the dual heavenly might of divinity and devil. But this time, he actually activated the dual heavenly might of divinity and devil before the battle had even begun. But then Little Beast saw the King of Hell, who was emitting black gas, and understood. That opponent was different from any other opponent he had encountered before. He was strong enough to make Lu Chen activate all the buff skills he could at the beginning of the battle. But because of this, Little Beast could not help but feel a little worried. Dad did not use Divine Demon Symbiosis, and now his attributes were much lower. Divine Demon Nameless and King of Hell, who will win? Etienne was so nervous that he could not breathe. This battle concerned the entire level 6. Dean, Skyfall, Wu Xian, and the others were on tenterhooks as they stared at the battlefield. Suddenly, the surrounding 100,000 puppets of the army of the dead pounced on the three beasts. The three beasts unleashed their combat power at the same time and fought fiercely with the other party. Although these puppets did not have self-consciousness, they were several times stronger than the previous army of the dead. A puppet flashed and appeared beside Little Originator and punched at him. Divine Demon Aura. Little Beast suddenly saw the situation and shouted, "Little Originator, dodge. It's a Divine Demon Aura attack." Little Originator was immune to both spiritual and spiritual energy, and his elemental defense was also very high, but he was still afraid of one kind of attack, the Divine Demon Aura attack. People of the Netherworld were not supposed to be able to use Divine Demon Aura attacks, but this puppet was able to. Maybe it was because the puppet was under the control of King of Hell, and King of Hell had the ability to control the two realms. Xiao Yuan hastily dodged, barely avoiding the punch. In the meantime, Little Hairball was also under siege. Unlike Little Originator and Little Beast, Little Hairball was not immune to attacks. However, it could quickly recover its health points and its defense was high. Even so, Little Hairball could not be careless when faced with the Divine Demon Aura attacks that could ignore most defenses and the puppets that could not recover their health points. At the moment, Little Beast was the only one that was not affected, but it was not as calm as before when faced with those powerful puppets. King of Hell sneered. "Stop looking at your battle pets. Your opponent is me. It's a pity that you're not in your best state. You don't have time to use Divine Demon Symbiosis. To be honest, I really want to fight you in your best state, but I'm afraid I won't have such a chance in the future." Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. "I don't need to be in my best state to fight you. You're quite arrogant." King of Hell said coldly, "Fine. Let's see how strong you are. Don't you have the life reversing set? Try my punches first." King of Hell said and disappeared on the spot, moving so fast that the naked eye could not see him. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Lu Chen. He clenched his fists and punched. Doom of Hell. Lu Chen's eyelids twitched. This guy is so fast. Chapter 1072. To everyone's surprise, Lu Chen did not dodge. Instead, he took King of Hell's two-handed heavy punch head-on. Void Guard. Lu Chen's left arm demonized, and a giant black arm blocked in front of him. With a loud bang, the ground made of black rock fiercely caved in. Just as he blocked the attack, Lu Chen's right hand instantly pulled out a long sword from the void. Sky-piercing sword. Lu Chen's sky-piercing sword had never failed before. However, this time, he failed to penetrate King of Hell's body. The tip of Limitless Sword directly hit a palm-sized transparent shield, but it did not pierce through. This guy's shield was not like others, which protected his entire body. It only protected the position where Lu Chen attacked. This was the result of condensing the shield's energy to the extreme. It was also the confidence in his own reaction and adaptability. My astral shield has been trained to the highest level. You want to break my shield? You're still far from it. Absolute martial void shattering. The one who used void shattering was King of Hell. After saying that, he threw another punch. King of Hell can actually use void shattering too. It seems like he has entered the vortex before. And he's strengthened void shattering. You can't take this punch head-on. Etienne said anxiously. However, Lu Chen only leaned slightly to avoid the front. He blocked with his left arm from the side. After deflecting most of the attack, he even changed the direction of King of Hell's attack. I'd like to see what kind of shield can't be pierced through. Lu Chen shouted angrily. Void attack, void shattering. Nameless also used void shattering and threw a punch. The transparent shield lit up slightly and tilted at a certain angle. It deflected part of Lu Chen's attack and blocked Lu Chen's attack again. However, when the two of them used the enhanced version of Void Shatter at the same time, the huge recoil caused the two of them to be knocked back at the same time. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, the two of them had already exchanged blows twice. Neither of them chose to dodge. Instead, they relied on their defense to receive the other's attacks within an extremely small area and then counterattacked. Moreover, both of them had used the strengthened version of Shatter the Void. Oh my God, I suddenly understand what the King of Hell said. The two of them are really the same type of people. Both of them have top-notch reactions and top-notch fighting strength. Even their usage of formless is equally meticulous. Both of them simultaneously neutralized a portion of the other's attack, ensuring that their defense could withstand the other's attack. Then they engaged in close combat. Neither of them was willing to retreat. These two guys are actually super experts from the swirl world. King of Hell has soul and body as one, and Nameless has dual heaven's might. Who is stronger between the two? Just as everyone was wondering, blood suddenly seeped out from the corner of Lu Chen's mouth. Looking at the King of Hell again, he was calm and composed. He had only been knocked back by the recoil just now and was not injured at all. The fierce battle just now seemed to have decided the winner. Lu Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stared at the King of Hell in the distance. However, the King of Hell seemed to be dissatisfied with such a result. He snorted coldly and said, "I didn't expect a human like you to have such a high physical strength. Very well, then I've decided to slightly increase the difficulty of the game." True God Bloodline, Azura form. With a boom, the black fog around the King of Hell became deeper and wider than before. The muscles all over his body bulged, and together with his originally burly body, he instantly transformed into a god of war. Lu Chen stared at the King of Hell. He had always been the one who had a trump card, but in this battle, the King of Hell still had energy left. After entering the Azura form, the King of Hell had another giant sword in his hand. "Ghost Soul, follow me and slay all the gods and demons." The King of Hell growled and his speed increased again. From a few hundred meters away, he appeared in front of Lu Chen in the blink of an eye. Ghost Soul Thousand Flows. The moment the Ghost Soul was raised high, the wind and clouds surged in the sky, and a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Accompanied by the sound of thunder, a heavy sword Qi had already attacked Lu Chen. At the critical moment, Lu Chen waved his limitless sword at the same time. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. The two skills collided in front of the two, instantly causing a large number of continuous explosions. In order to not let the aftermath of the explosion affect the direction of the remaining Sword Qi, the two of them used their movement skills at the same time and released Sword Qi crazily. On the battlefield, the two of them were like two blurry black dots, quickly jumping around the battlefield, but they never pulled away from each other. Wherever the two of them went, there would be several fierce spiritual energy collisions. Hearing the soul-stirring collisions of spiritual energy on the battlefield, the immortal cultivator army was dumbfounded. What kind of intense battle is this? It has only been a few seconds since the beginning, but the two of them have already exchanged over 1,000 moves. Do they have an endless supply of movement skills? My God, the strength of these two people is too close. On the other hand, Yi Fan frowned. Although he was not the strongest among them, his knowledge was not lower than anyone else's. The principal is at a disadvantage. The Ghost Soul Thousand Flows and Sacred Lotus Sword Hearts collisions are getting closer to the principal. This means that the principal's speed has decreased. It should be because his spiritual energy can't keep up. Chu Tian nodded and said, "Indeed, I have never seen such an intense battle before. There is no time to breathe at all." The two of them have broken down a set of skills into multiple attacks. In other words, in terms of using the formless technique, the King of Hell Demon Lord is better than the principal. Too terrifying. The principal is already this strong, but he is still being suppressed by the King of Hell. Xiao Zhan said. Just as Yi Fan said, Lu Chen was indeed being suppressed. The King of Hell attacked while angrily shouting, "Solipsistic Demon Lord, is this all you have?" It seems like you are only SOSO. Hurry up and use your true skills. I still haven't used my Stardust yet. Don't disappoint me. Stardust should be the king of hell's concept skill. Even now, he still hasn't used his true skills. Lu Chen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he fiercely released several sword chi. At the same time, flames suddenly appeared on his left hand's emptiness of gods and demons. Void Attack Universal Annihilation. With the help of Void Attack, Universal Annihilation became a mid-range Buddhist seal attack. The distance between the two sides wasn't far, so the other side was in his attack range. Void Attack, Universal Annihilation in his left hand and the Sacred Lotus Sword Heart in his right hand. Lu Chen actually used two different skills with both hands. My god, Nameless can actually use two different skills. Mabe Immortal King, is this also the effect of Formless? A Zhongxian Gur Immortal Master excitedly asked. Mabe frowned. I'm not sure, but it said that Formless makes skills more flexible. From this point of view, dual-wielding skills are indeed in line with this characteristic. However, if Nameless can still use dual-wielding skills, it means that his mastery of Formless has reached perfection. But even so, it's still difficult for him to contend against the King of Hell. That guy doesn't seem to be using his full strength. If that's the case, I'm even more worried about whether Nameless can win. Dual-wielding skills were indeed tied with the King of Hell's Ghost Soul Thousand Streams. The aftermath of a huge spiritual energy explosion directly separated the two once again. After landing, Lu Chen gasped for breath as he stared at the King of Hell. This guy's speed, reaction, and skills were not inferior to his own, and his spiritual energy control was more flexible than his own. How could he win against such an opponent? Chapter 1073. The King of Hell seemed to be at ease. Holding the ghost soul in his hand, he walked towards Lu Chen step by step. I've seen two-handed weapons, but I've rarely seen two-handed skills. Although two-handed weapons were also used with both hands, the same move was used, so the flow of spirit power and the way it was operated was the same. As for two-handed skills, they were completely two types of spirit power. When using them, not only did they have to multitask, but they also had to clearly distinguish the two types of spirit power in the body. If there was a slight negligence, the spirit power would be in disorder. If it was light, the skill would not be able to be used, and if it was heavy, it would cause internal injuries. Dividing the spirit power into two and using both your left and right hands at the same time, it seems that you have something for killing my million army of the dead. The King of Hell said indifferently, unfortunately, if you want to win against me at this level, it's still too far away. Lu Chen took a deep breath and controlled his breathing. At the same time, he took out the silver gallbladder in his left hand and the limitless demon sword in his right hand. Lu Chen was preparing to use two skills to deal with the King of Hell. Although this skill was not mature, it seemed that this was the only way to fight against the King of Hell. However, Lu Chen suddenly found that the silver gallbladder had become particularly restless today. The body of the spear trembled slightly. Lu Chen could feel that the silver gallbladder was not afraid, but angry and excited. Silver gallbladder, what's wrong with you? Lu Chen was a little puzzled. Unfortunately, he had no time to figure it out at this time. Don't worry, our battle has just begun. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. The King of Hell saw Lu Chen's silver gallbladder and paused for a moment. Chang Ming's spear? You used the silver gallbladder? Lu Chen said coldly, you also know Senior Chang Ming? It's just a defeated opponent. Otherwise, how do you think a strong person like him fell? The King of Hell snorted coldly. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He finally knew why the silver gallbladder was so restless. It recognized the enemy who killed its original owner. Senior Chang Ming has done me a favor. Silvergut, I will definitely avenge Senior Chang Ming. Lu Chen said. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Silver Bile calmed down. The King of Hell snorted coldly. Revenge is not just about words. Otherwise, who knows how many times I would have died. Solipsistic, the myriad ancient soul palace is about to open. Sorry, I don't want to miss such an interesting event, so I'm going to be serious. After saying that, The king of hell's eyes widened as he shouted, "True God bloodline, ruler of the underworld." With a loud bang, the already powerful king of hell's spiritual power increased once again. The earth started to rumble as if the entire netherworld was shaking. Strong winds blew in the surroundings, and the clouds in the sky surged. It was to the extent that in his surroundings, Chi had already created a visual illusion of blurred space. The king of hell's entire body became somewhat ethereal and indiscernible. One had to know that he didn't even move, but it was already hard for people to capture his true body. Solipsistic, do you see? This is my strongest form. I was born to be the ruler of the netherworld. I have the strongest bloodline of the god descendant race, but I was treated as trash by them. What a joke! Even if you have the netherworld earth fire, a lowly race like yours is definitely not my match. Seeing this scene, Etion and the others were so nervous that their hearts almost stopped beating. That guy had a third form. And the third form was so terrifying. Like a god. No wonder he said that when he came to the netherworld, he realized that this was the most suitable place for him. So his bloodline came from the ruler of the netherworld. The god descendant race said in shock. That is the most outstanding god blood. The people of his tribe actually didn't know that such a super genius was born in their tribe. Thinking that the person who forced the king of hell onto this path was from his own tribe, the god descendant disciple was filled with unspeakable regret. If the king of hell's tribe had treated him well, would everything have been different? The old man beside him was his teacher. At this moment he kept shaking his head. No, it wouldn't have been different. If he had the bloodline of the ruler of the netherworld, then sooner or later he would have stepped onto today's heavenly road. He could kill his own father with his own hands, which shows that he is different from ordinary people. Moreover, there is no such thing as if in this world, the god-descendant disciple helplessly nodded. Yes, there was no such thing as if in life. The king of hell was the king of hell. As long as this battle was nameless lost, the sixth layer heaven, and even the previous heaven domain, would be finished. In front of the godlike king of hell, the demon lord, Lu Chen's symbiosis of gods and demons already seemed extremely insignificant. The opponent's spiritual pressure had already completely crushed Lu Chen. It was unknown how much of a difference in strength there was between the two of them. Lu Chen calmly looked at the king of hell, the demon lord. Was this a person who had the bloodline of a god? So strong, then how strong was a god? While speaking, the opponent had already moved. In an instant, the king of hell appeared in front of Lu Chen, as if he had suddenly appeared. God of the underworld, ruler of all things. The king of hell stretched out a finger, and a spiritual beam directly shot over. Lu Chen instinctively raised his left arm. This time, not only did Lu Chen use Void Guard, even the little beast's profound armor was triggered at the same time. Void Guard actually couldn't defend against this move, so the profound armor was naturally triggered. However, the spiritual beam directly pierced through the profound armor shield and the emptiness of gods and demons' arms' double defense. Not only did it break through the double shields, this attack actually directly pierced through the great void arm. Lu Chen endured the intense pain. Divine Demon Astral Physique. Divine Demon Lotus Heart, Inner Demon. Lu Chen's speed instantly exploded. Sky-breaking sword. Fierce Tiger descends the mountain. Void attack away of the spear, Emptiness Spear. In an instant, Lu Chen flashed behind the King of Hell and activated two ultimate skills at the same time. The Divine Demon Limitless Sword and Silver Gallbladder pierced the Stardust Shield at the same time. However, even if Lu Chen activated all the enhancement skills except for Soul and Body as one, he still couldn't break through the Stardust Shield with two ultimate skills at the same time. This shield of mine, the Stardust Shield's ability comes from the Star Core. Do you think you can break it? The King of Hell sneered. Since you can't break it, then this game is already meaningless. You can also die. God of the Underworld, Destruction. Concept, Stardust. After saying that, without the King of Hell making a move, Lu Chen, who was still in the Divine Demon Astral Physique state, was directly hit by a palm. At the moment of being hit, Lu Chen suddenly made a move at the same time, creation space. Lu Chen, who had just used a skill, flew out like a cannonball. Strangely, this move actually didn't cause any damage. However, when Lu Chen stopped his momentum, he found that his chest was collapsing. Before he could stand firm, Lu Chen knelt on the ground. He looked at his chest in disbelief. His skin, muscles, and bones were clearly disintegrating into dust. His opponent didn't give him any chance. The King of Hell only used stardust at this time. He, who was in the divine demon astral physique state, couldn't dodge this attack at all. Perhaps it was because Lu Chen's own defense was extremely high, causing him to not be instantly disintegrated like the table. However, the range of desertification continued to expand. If this continued, there would be no difference between his end and the table's. At the same time, he raised his head and glanced at the King of Hell. Sky-breaking sword. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Void attack, spear path, emptiness spear were all feints. The creation space was Lu Chen's real goal. With such a trap laid out at all costs, even a super strong person like the King of Hell couldn't avoid this move and was now trapped in the creation space. Chapter 1074. Lu Chen looked at his chest in horror. His flesh and bones were disappearing, and the area of decomposition was still extending. And on his body, waves of silver light began to appear, faintly discernible. Those were dragon scales. The dragon crystal was resisting the stardust. However, even if Lu Chen's defense and the dragon crystal resisted the erosion of the sand, it could not completely eliminate the effect of the stardust. It only slowed down the speed of the erosion. If this continued, it was only a matter of time before he was completely decomposed. Dad! Little Beast saw that Lu Chen had been hit and was temporarily unable to split into two, but it was extremely anxious. Dean! In the distance, Yi Fan and the others were about to rush over from their mounts. Lu Chen endured the great pain of his body being decomposed and shouted, "Don't come over!" The decomposition of the stardust could spread, and Lu Chen was not sure if they would be in danger if they came over. Lu Chen glanced at his opponent. At this time, the King of Hell was trapped in the creation space. He frowned and observed the surrounding space, then snorted coldly. "I didn't expect you to have this trick up your sleeve. However, do you think a mere space can trap me?" He was not in a hurry to break it, but was sensing the changes in the surrounding spiritual energy. There was extremely thin spiritual energy in the space, and these spiritual energies were fusing with each other and classifying. Creation. This space of yours is in accordance with the great Tao of Taiji and Taiji giving birth to Yin and Yang, but it is somewhat mysterious. Unfortunately, when mortals use such a concept, they can't really control it. Immediately, the King of Hell restrained the spiritual energy in his body, and the terrifying spiritual energy pressure that was emitted from his body disappeared instantly. It can actually completely conceal spiritual energy. Mabe's eyes widened. Etian was burning with anxiety, but Nameless naturally had his reasons for not letting them go over. Even if they went over now, they couldn't do anything. The fact that King of Hell had completely concealed his spiritual energy made Etian even more anxious. If the creation space could obtain the spiritual energy of the King of Hell, then the development speed would be very fast. However, the King of Hell actually saw through the operation of the creation space at a glance and concealed his own spiritual energy, so that the creation space could not obtain any spiritual energy from him. As expected of an ultimate powerhouse. Even in the face of such an overpowered skill like Genesis, Yenlua was still able to adapt to the situation and maintain control. Suddenly, King of Hell, who had been concealing his spiritual energy all this time, unleashed his martial extreme shattering void. This time, the attack directly hit the edge of the creation space, causing a loud boom. Yi Fan and the others widened their eyes. Previously, King of Hell had completely concealed his spirit force. To do this, the most basic requirement was to stop the circulation of his spirit core. But now, to use martial extreme to shatter the void, he had to circulate his spirit core. He can actually use the spirit core's spiritual energy so quickly. This is his control of his own spiritual energy to the extreme. Chu Tian also noticed this point. This guy is even more terrifying than I imagined. Xiao Zhan's eyes were filled with horror. If the creation space is unable to quickly form a large number of sword arrays, then it will be broken by him very quickly. Unless the dean has a chance to control the space. But now in the eyes of these disciples, the creation space was unbreakable, but King of Hell immediately thought of a way to break it. This was the difference between the strong and the weak. Lu Chen was also anxious. The King of Hell was strong, but the creation space might not be impossible. If he could inject his own spiritual energy, perhaps he would have a chance. But now that he had been affected by the stardust decomposition, he could not even take care of himself, so he could not circulate his spiritual energy at all. If he allowed the King of Hell to break the array, it was only a matter of time before he came out. Damn it! How do I break it? Looking at the expanding hole in his chest, Lu Chen clenched his fists tightly. His face was ferocious, but he could not move. In a dense forest somewhere in the netherworld, there was a small village near a mountain and a river. At this moment, most of the houses here had already been emptied. Xianlong sat in his own house, looking out the window in a daze. The stream outside the window gurgled. The black stream irrigated the spider lilies and unknown weeds and trees on the riverbank. However, Xianlong was not in the mood to enjoy the beautiful scenery. Was he the only one left in the underworld dragon clan? They all went to help that human brat. Even if he is not that miracle, at least this is our salvation. The old man's words kept echoing in Xianlong's mind. The underworld dragon clan had been defeated and exiled to the abyss of myriad calamities. In the abyss, they devoured their own kind. In order to survive, they did not hesitate to step on the corpses of their own kind to escape from the abyss of myriad calamities. Now they had finally declined to this point. Even though they had escaped, the scene of that time still appeared in his mind again and again. Xianlong kept sighing. No matter what you choose, I will not change my decision. Xianlong said to himself. Our mission is to pass down the dragon crystal. Suddenly, Xianlong was stunned. Pass down the dragon crystal? If the dragon clan no longer existed, what was the point of passing down the dragon crystal? Or rather, what was the point of passing down the dragon crystal? This question stumped Xianlong. If everyone thought that it was the right thing to do, then was he too stubborn? Xianlong remembered the first time he met Lu Chen. When he gave him the golden dragon costume, that brat asked about the underworld flower and said that he wanted to reincarnate a few friends. Reincarnate? This kind of thing that goes against the will of the heavens? How dare you? Xianlong shook his head, but he could not help but admire that brat's courage. A person who was willing to do so much for his friends, a person who went into the underworld to save his friends, could he be another king of hell? Speaking of which, it was strange. That brat had actually fused with the dragon crystal? He even fused into that bird form. What was the use of that? The underworld dragon clan had been struggling at death's door until today, guarding the dragon crystal inheritance. It was as if the two had made an agreement. No, it's impossible for me to help him. Even if he unintentionally saved us, even if he looks different from the king of hell, even if he's half a clansman, even if... The more he spoke, the more difficult Xianlong's expression became. There was clearly no one here, but he could not say the rest of his words. It was as if another voice kept telling him another possibility. He could not be the king of hell. They were completely different. Suddenly, Xianlong slammed his fist on the table. You guys are too much. Why do you all have to help him? Do you want me to watch my clansmen die? Damn it. Can that bit of bloodline of yours help him upgrade the dragon crystal? Why are you all so brainless? With that, Xianlong rushed out of the room, ran 2 steps, and jumped up, turning into a black dragon. Brat, you better not die. Xianlong roared and charged towards the Eternal Soul Palace. Lu Chen's dragon scales flipped as he tried his best to resist the disintegration of the stardust. However, there was already a large hole in his chest. The disintegration of the stardust began to eat away at his organs. Lu Chen's face was pale. He tried to use spirit energy to resist the disintegration of the stardust, but all his attempts were to no avail. If not for the dragon crystal, he would have already turned into dust. At the same time, the king of hell attacked again and again. Although he had already formed tens of thousands of sword images in the creation space, he was still able to handle them with ease. The creation space had already begun to become unstable. In a moment, the king of hell would come out. Chapter 1075. Break for me! The king of hell roared and punched fiercely at the creation space. After a loud noise, the space of creation was broken. No, king of hell is out. Xiao Zhan exclaimed. He really broke the principal's space of creation. No, I have to save the principal. It's too late. At that moment, king of hell didn't stop at all. In the blink of an eye, he had reached Lu Chen. I didn't expect you to survive until now. I didn't know that you had fused with the dragon crystal. Dragon crystal, creation, fate reverser, and those 3 battle pets. Solipsistic, I have to admit that you are more powerful than I expected. But the more powerful you are, the more I can't let you live. King of Hell once again unleashed his terrifying spiritual energy. With that said, he punched at Su Ping. God of Underworld, stardust of destruction. Lu Chen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Bearing the sharp pain, he tried to summon his spiritual energy. However, his body was incomplete at the moment and he couldn't use any spiritual energy at all. He had to block with his left arm. With a boom, the emptiness of gods and demons' left arm was punched through, leaving a huge hole in it. The huge impact knocked Lu Chen away for hundreds of meters, and he smashed into the Dominator's stone. Lu Chen gnashed his teeth and shouted. He looked at his left arm. The big hole on his left arm was quickly expanding. At the moment, not even the dragon crystal could resist the stardust of destruction. His body was quickly disintegrating. Lu Chen knew that this time, he seemed to be unable to reverse the situation of the battle. He looked up and saw Li Wei on the 9 Beast Tower. Li Wei was sobbing. Nameless. Nameless, Lu Chen lay on the ground and smiled at Li Wei. Hey, I actually have a name. My name is Lu Chen. Li Wei cried even harder. Nameless. Perhaps he didn't want to die without knowing his name. I'll remember it. Your name is Lu Chen, Li Wei said while crying. Lu Chen smiled and looked at the dusky red sky of the underworld. In the end, he was unable to stop the King of Hell. That fellow was too strong. Even if he had activated Soul Body as one, he was still no match for him. Sure enough, Jiutian is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Li Wei, I'm sorry. I might not be able to return the favor I owe you. Li Wei only felt that her heart was about to break. She kept shaking her head. No, Lu Chen, you said that you wouldn't owe me a favor. If you die, you won't be able to return it. You don't die. I don't want to die either. Even if there's a glimmer of hope, I won't give up. I still have a lot of things to do. When he thought of the underworld ruling Jiutian, Lu Chen naturally thought of his sister. He hadn't been able to protect his sister, but it's fine. I'm really very tired. Very, very tired. This journey hadn't been easy for Lu Chen. He did have advantages that others didn't have, but he'd also experienced too many desperate situations that others couldn't imagine. He'd gained a lot, but he'd also lost a lot. Lu Chen laughed self-deprecatingly. I don't believe in fate, but the irony is that the prophecies of those prophets still came true in the end. The little critter and the others were still locked in a bitter battle. The King of Hell probably wouldn't really kill them, but the immortal soldiers probably wouldn't be able to escape misfortune. Of course, even if they could escape from the underworld, the final outcome wouldn't make much of a difference. When the Shrine of the Ancients opened, it would be the day when the King of Hell flattened the Yang realm. Everyone would be doomed. The King of Hell walked in front of Lu Chen and looked down at Lu Chen. He coldly said, "Even the emptiness of gods and demons' arm can't save you." As soon as he said this, the King of Hell suddenly looked toward the Shrine of the Ancients. The Shrine of the Ancients shone brightly. The King of Hell opened his eyes wide, unable to contain his excitement. Ha, success. Success. I've finally conquered the Shrine of the Ancients. With this group of super strong Netherworld soldiers, the sixth heavens will be mine. It was extremely rare to see the calm king of hell so excited. Solipsistic, do you see this? You're really too lucky to be able to see this scene before you die. I don't have time to play with you now. After killing you, I'll go conquer the Jotun. You can rest in peace. With that, the king of hell raised his right fist again. I'll use the blood of a super expert like you as a sacrifice to my army of the dead. Nether God, destructive impact. Lu Chen was already prepared to die, but suddenly, dozens of black flames shot down from the sky behind the king of hell. The king of hell also felt the threat behind him and hurriedly withdrew his attack, using the Stardust shield to block. Nether dragons. The king of hell saw the dozens of dragons in the sky, his eyes filled with killing intent. How interesting. I don't have time to deal with you for now and wanted to let you live for a few more days. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Alright, then I'll send you to hell together. Suddenly, a black shadow directly tore through space and appeared beside Lu Chen. It grabbed him and jumped through space to a distant place. The king of hell was currently defending against the nether dragon's attack and was half a step slower. Someone had actually rescued Lu Chen. Lu Chen looked at the person in front of him in surprise. He felt like he had seen him before, but he couldn't remember. You are? We're the nether dragons. Hei Rui quickly answered while glancing at Lu Chen's injuries. It's indeed the destructive Stardust. This is a skill obtained from the Eternal Soul Palace. Luckily, your dragon crystal has been resisting and bought you some time. Hei Rui placed Lu Chen on the ground and quickly flipped his fingers, forming seals and chanting from time to time. You want to set up a formation in front of me? You're courting death. The king of hell also saw Hei Rui and suddenly released his spiritual energy. After forcing back the nether dragon's attack, he shot toward Hei Rui. Hei Rui ignored him and continued to set up the formation. Just as the king of hell was approaching, he was suddenly blocked by a transparent shield. The king of hell slightly narrowed his eyes. This group of nether dragons had actually set up a defensive formation when he wasn't paying attention. A mere defensive formation. Do you think I can't break it? I'm the Nether God. The king of hell angrily roared. Nether God, infinite shattering starry sky. This attack slammed into the defensive formation and Hei Rui directly spat out a mouthful of blood. The defensive formation was almost shattered. The other nether dragons quickly swooped down to intercept the king of hell and madly attacked. Hei Rui forcefully endured his injuries and continued to set up the formation. Not long later, a huge formation diagram appeared on the ground. Lu Chen was at the center of the formation. Hei Rui glanced at the formation and fiercely said, "Damn it. I don't know if our bloodline is enough. If it's really not enough, we have to save him even if we have to risk our lives." However, they couldn't care so much now. Hei Rui shouted to his clansmen, "The Nether Dragon Chaos Heaven Blood formation is ready. Quickly, this brat can't hold on much longer." Dozens of dragon figures quickly rushed into the formation and turned into human form. Each of them stood at their own position. Lu Chen's consciousness was already becoming more and more blurry. A third of his body was about to disappear. "Brat, whether you can succeed or not will depend on your luck." An old man hurriedly said, "If you can defeat the king of hell, remember to break the shackles of the myriad soul palace and restore the netherworld to its original state." The old man looked at Lu Chen and faintly smiled. In this world, there are still some things that cannot be broken down. As he spoke, he looked at his own heart. All the dragons in the formation simultaneously stabbed their weapons into their own hearts. Chapter 1076. The blood from the chests of dozens of abyss dragons dripped down their weapons and gathered toward Lu Chen along the runes on the ground. The dragon blood climbed up Lu Chen's body and poured into his heart. The dragon scales on Lu Chen's body began to flip back and forth wildly as if they were out of control. Lu Chen, who was already in a daze, opened his eyes slightly. Seeing the scene in front of him, he did not understand what was happening. In the sky, Mabe said in shock. This is the blood sacrifice array? Those black dragons have injected their dragon blood into Nameless' body. They are carrying out the bloodline inheritance. However, King Yenluo was simply too powerful. The defensive formation was already on the verge of collapsing. Abyss dragons, how dare you save him? If I had known earlier, I would have killed all of you earlier. Yama roared furiously as he punched the defensive array. Oh no, I'm afraid that the King of Hell will break the array before the bloodline inheritance is completed. Pavilion Master Hai exclaimed, we can't stand by and do nothing. Nameless is now our only hope. We must protect him. Mabe nodded. The King of Hell had said before that the primordial temple had completed the bloodline, so the only chance now was to kill the King of Hell. However, only Nameless could do that. Everyone, even if we die in battle, we must help Nameless complete the bloodline inheritance. Whether or not we are affected by Nameless' heavenly might, even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we must hold him back. With that, Mabe, Pavilion Master Hai, and the others took the lead. This is our last chance. Charge! The million immortal soldiers, despite being affected by both sides, all charged toward the battlefield below. At the same time, Little Critter, Little Furball, and Little Originator charged toward the King of Hell. Little Critter shouted, you guys hold those puppets back. The King of Hell was too strong. He could easily kill an army of 1,000,000. However, the puppets rarely had AoE skills. Although the immortal army was no match for them, the casualties would be much lower. The three beasts pounced on King of Hell at the same time. Even King of Hell had to take these three beasts seriously. Perhaps King of Hell also wanted the three battle pets, so he didn't directly use the destruction stardust. Even so, King of Hell's strength was still frightening. Netherski Soul Lock. To deal with these three beasts, it was better to trap them than to kill them. As long as he killed Lu Chen, these three beasts would become ownerless. At that time, he could consider how to subdue them. Between heaven and earth, iron chains crisscrossed, and the three beasts frantically jumped between the chains. Stop struggling. You won't be able to escape from me. King of Hell sneered. Still not being honest? Then I can only let you suffer a little first. God of Underworld, Lord of all things. A beam of spiritual energy pierced through the left side of the little ball of hair. The little ball of hair lost its balance and was instantly trapped by the iron chains. God of Underworld, true God's wrath. A punch landed on the originator. The originator was knocked away and hit one of the iron chains, which quickly tied it up. Little ball of hair. Originator. The little beast was enraged to see that both the little ball of hair and the originator were subdued. However, it couldn't pass through the iron chains to save the little ball of hair and the originator. It had to try its best to move between the chains. It was the only one left. If it could buy some time, its father would have a better chance. The Immortal Army and the Immortal Army clashed head-on. Even though the Immortal Army outnumbered the Immortal Army by 10 times, the disparity in strength was too great. It was a one-sided slaughter. Yi Fan, watch out. Xiao Zhan summoned a ball of fire and forced a puppet to retreat. His attributes were lowered, but his affinity with the fire element remained the same. Since his fire was the bane of the army of the dead, he successfully forced the puppet to retreat. Use elemental attacks. Our goal is to buy time. Xiao Zhan roared in the crowd. Chu Tian was doing his best to use the killing Rakshasa Gate. However, not everyone had Xiao Zhan's high affinity with the fire element. Many of them were instantly killed. I also have family to protect. I won't let you rule the Yang world. I'll fight you to the death. The whole battlefield was instantly dyed red with blood. Lu Chen's body was quickly recovering. He finally opened his eyes again. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the cruel battlefield in front of him. The little beast was doing its best to deal with the King of Hell. The Million Immortal Army was using their own flesh and blood to delay the puppet army and buy time for Lu Chen. The Nether Dragon clan was constantly supplying him with blood. Some of them had already fallen, while others were still holding on. At this moment, it didn't matter whether they were friends or foes. All their hopes and bets were placed on him. Tears flowed from the corners of Lu Chen's eyes. At this time, He Rui tiredly shouted, "This is bad, his dragon crystal is wrong." Of course there was something wrong with Lu Chen's dragon crystal. He was forced to fuse with the dragon crystal, so he couldn't display the dragon crystal's full strength and his body was weakened. But the most important thing wasn't this. The most important thing was that his dragon crystal had mutated during the fusion process. He was a variant dragon, unable to completely fuse with the dragon crystal in his body. He said. His body tilted and swayed as he knelt down on one knee. Our dragon blood is not enough to upgrade his dragon crystal. Could it be that there is no chance? In the sky, a black shadow quickly passed by. It was a lone black dragon, and it was the largest black dragon in the underworld. A roar rang out. King of Hell died. Rising dragon's rage. A dragon's roar shook the world. When the King of Hell noticed the enemy, a transparent shield quickly appeared behind him, blocking this attack. He turned around and saw that the black dragon had directly entered the defensive spell formation. The little critter had just gotten a chance to catch its breath. When it saw the King of Hell staring in the direction of the defensive spell formation, it quickly attacked. Beast God's various techniques. Not only did it have to prevent the King of Hell from killing it, it also had to restrain the King of Hell. It couldn't let him continue attacking the defensive spell formation. Five colored flames rushed toward the King of Hell at the same time. The King of Hell instantly struck out with both palms, relying on his spiritual energy to directly disperse the little critter's attack. He narrowed his eyes slightly. You are very strong. I really want to subdue you. But since you are so stubborn and refuse to surrender, I can only kill you. You can run pretty well, but I bet that you will deliver yourself to my fist in the next attack. The King of Hell sneered. Bah, do you think I'm stupid? Deliver myself to your fist. The little critter retorted. The King of Hell only smiled slightly. Then he suddenly turned around and charged toward the defensive spell formation. The King of Hell raised his right hand, and the air in his hand became blurry. God of the underworld, destructive stardust. At this moment, the little critter was dumbfounded. It turned out that it was the stupid one. Dad's bloodline inheritance hadn't ended yet. If the King of Hell were to break the spell formation now, Dad would definitely die. A white light flashed. The little critter didn't even think and stood in front of the defensive spell formation. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was extremely anxious. He roared, "Little critter, dodge." A hand suddenly pressed down on Lu Chen. You can't do anything now. If you want to take revenge, then bear with it. The person who came was Xianlong. He hit Lu Chen's shoulder with his palm, then quickly stood in the eye of the spell formation and pierced his own chest with his sword. Xianlong, don't talk nonsense. I'm afraid that you will all die. Xianlong mercilessly interrupted He Ru. His dragon crystal has mutated. Focus, and we will use the true dragon's blood to help him break through. At the same time, Lu Chen watched as the King of Hell's palm hit the little critter's chest. Lu Chen felt that his breathing was about to stop. Little critter. Dad. The little critter couldn't care less about its injuries. It looked at Lu Chen from afar. I'm sorry, I'm useless. I can't accompany you anymore. After saying that, the little critter's slightly thin body slowly leaned forward. Dad, I'll always love you the most. Lu Chen's eyes were already blurred by tears, but he couldn't cry out loud. Chapter 1077. Little Beast. Lu Chen let out a heart-wrenching roar. Anger and grief had caused all the blood in Lu Chen's body to rush to his brain. With the mystic dragon's dragon blood, the Hell Dragon Chaos blood formation suddenly changed, and the dragon scales on his body became restless. There was a loud bang. Endless golden spiritual energy exploded outwards, covering the sky and the earth. Like an army of thousands of men and horses, it swept through the entire battlefield with the force of thunder. Everyone was shocked by this powerful aura and looked in the direction of the formation in horror. Even the King of Hell's puppets were directly affected by the spiritual energy and stopped moving. What is this? What happened? Such powerful spiritual energy. What is going on? This is even more terrifying than the King of Hell's previous sovereign form. Could it be, however, before everyone had a chance to see what was going on, a streak of golden light shot toward the King of Hell at a speed that was too fast for the naked eye to follow. Bastard! The King of Hell widened his eyes. How did this guy's speed suddenly become so fast? Golden light flashed, and a golden sword came crashing down. The King of Hell hurriedly blocked it with Ghost Soul. Another loud boom sounded, and the ground under the King of Hell's feet instantly cracked open a 100-meter-long fissure. His left knee even went soft and he almost knelt down. Damn it, how did this guy become so strong? The King of Hell quickly countered with a palm strike, forcing his opponent to retreat and quickly widening the distance between them. When the battle stopped temporarily, everyone could finally see the figure clearly. Golden dragon scales covered his entire body except for his head. Even the great void arm was covered in golden dragon scales. The silver gallbladder and the infinite celestial demon sword were also covered in dragon scales. At this moment, Lu Chen was like a white-haired god of war wearing golden armor. Lu Chen did not chase after him. Instead, he flashed in front of the little beast. Seeing the little beast's body rapidly decomposing, Lu Chen trembled all over. Little beast! The little beast opened its eyes slightly and smiled at Lu Chen. But I can't hold on any longer. The stardust of destruction is too strong. I can't hold on any longer. Lu Chen's tears were like pearls from a broken necklace, dripping onto the little beast's body. You will be fine. You still have rising from the ashes. Yes, you still have rising from the ashes. The little beast forced a smile. Dad, rebirth also requires a medium, but the destructive stardust completely disintegrates all matter. Hearing the little beast's words, Lu Chen's last shred of hope was extinguished. He knew that what the little critter said was true. He had personally experienced the might of the destruction of a star. That was why he was so grieved. By the way, Dad, you look so handsome like this. Is this a new fashion? The little beast looked at Lu Chen's dragon scales strangely. Lu Chen's lips trembled as he choked out. No, then I can't wear it. Dad, what form are you in now? You are so strong. The little beast's voice became lower and lower. Chaos Dragon God. After fusing with the Abyss Dragon bloodline, that unknown mutated dragon species finally had its own name. Chaos Dragon God. Chaos Dragon God? I have never heard of it. Dad is so strong. Dad, little beast is leaving. You have to take good care of yourself in the future. Also, little furball, little Yuan, rhubarb, big sister Lu, big sister Min. Everyone has to be safe. With that, the little beast leaned its head into Lu Chen's arms and closed its eyes. His body began to decompose faster and faster. The little beast was completely unable to resist the decomposition of the destructive stardust. Solipsistic, he is just a battle pet. How can you sacrifice so much for a battle pet? What a joke! A piercing voice came from afar. So, you are in the form of a dragon god. Very good. Let me see if the dragon god and the mad god can fight against me. Lu Chen gently put down the little beast and slowly stood up. Not even his golden armor and silver hair could hide the green smoke coming out of his eyes. He wielded the golden sword of the infinite fiend. Tiger descends the mountain. Holy Lotus Sword Heart. The chains around him were cut apart by the sword aura. Little Furball and Little Yuan regained their freedom. More importantly, the King of Hell found that he couldn't control the puppets anymore. The red eyes of the surrounding puppets suddenly dimmed, returning to their empty eye sockets. Lu Chen had cut off the King of Hell's puppet-controlling technique with his sword aura. He is not my battle pet, he is my family. Lu Chen lowered his voice and stared at the King of Hell. You killed him. You won't be able to pay for it even if you die 100 times. This time I will cut you into pieces. Lu Chen bellowed. Celestial body. Green smoke was still billowing from Lu Chen's eyes, which had never happened before. The green smoke was a side effect of his monster form. Whenever he was too angry to control his emotions, green smoke would come out from his eyes. Under normal circumstances, when Lu Chen was angry, he would often suppress his emotions. After all, this would affect his fighting. But this time, the smoke was billowing. He couldn't suppress it. The killing intent in his eyes was so strong that even those who were familiar with Lu Chen were frightened. The Dean seems to be suffering from inner demons. Yi Fan shook his head. The Dean didn't activate Heart of Celestial Body, inner demons. Inner demons? No, this time, there was no need for inner demons. He was already possessed. At the moment, everyone's attention was focused on the final battle between Lu Chen and the King of Hell. No one noticed that a black shadow flashed by, picked up the little beast, and disappeared. The puppets around them were temporarily out of control. The immortal army finally had a chance to catch their breath. At the same time, an unprecedented and horrifying battle was taking place on the battlefield. On one side was the King of Hell in his Lord of Hell form, and on the other side was the Nameless in her Chaos Dragon God form. The battle between the two had reached a point where no one could interfere. Boom 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 boom. The two's attacks collided in the air, forming balls of spiritual energy that exploded rapidly and spread out for 1,000 meters. The immortal army's attributes were too low, so they had to stay away from the battlefield. Lord of Hell, Lord of all things. It was this move again. It was extremely fast and could directly penetrate the Void Guardian and the Black Tortoise shield. But this time, Lu Chen didn't dodge at all. The Holy Lotus Sword Heart. Previously, when Lu Chen attacked, King Yama was still able to dodge with ease. But now, Lu Chen's speed wasn't inferior to King Yama's in the slightest. He had no choice but to dodge the Holy Lotus Sword Heart's sharp edge. Do you want to die? The King of Hell instantly moved far away. But just as he stopped, a golden figure followed him like a shadow. The King of Hell dodged again, but Lu Chen chased after him relentlessly. After a few times, Lu Chen finally found an opportunity to attack. Void attack, void shattering. You're not done yet. The King of Hell roared. It was the first time he was forced into such a difficult situation. He was the Lord of Hell. How could he just accept being chased by someone in the underworld? You really think I'm afraid of you? Absolute Martial, void shattering. The two killer moves collided directly at this moment. A huge spiritual energy ball expanded between the two of them at an incredible speed. A huge amount of spiritual energy rolled rapidly, causing the spiritual energy ball to expand rapidly. In an instant, it had reached a diameter of more than 100 meters. Then, the spiritual energy ball couldn't withstand any more energy and exploded instantly. In the white light, the two figures were sent flying at the same time. But the golden figure suddenly stopped halfway and instantly caught up with the King of Hell. The tiger descends the mountain. Holy Lotus Sword Heart. King Yama's eyes widened in anger. This guy was actually able to recover so quickly from the impact just now. The King of Hell couldn't dodge and could only use his shield. Astral Shield. I was waiting for your shield. Lu Chen said angrily. Unfortunately, your astral shield can't save your dog life this time. Sky-breaking sword. A golden light flashed. In the next second, Lu Chen was already standing behind the King of Hell. Chapter 1078. Sky-piercing sword. One move, Stardust shield, broken. The King of Hell looked at his chest in disbelief. A huge hole had appeared. This is impossible. You can actually hurt me. However, Lu Chen had killed millions of Army of the Dead. Naturally, he knew that in order to completely wipe out the Army of the Dead, he had to add fire elements to his attack. His nether fire was the bane of souls. However, this time, Lu Chen actually forgot to add nether fire to his attack. The King of Hell reacted quickly. He turned around and saw Lu Chen looking at him coldly. He snorted. Looks like you also have moments of carelessness. You didn't grasp the opportunity just now. You won't have a second chance. Lu Chen looked coldly at the King of Hell. I said that I would tear you into pieces. Letting you die under nether fire is too easy for you. The immortal army's minds buzzed. Nameless deliberately didn't use nether fire just now? Was it because killing the king of hell in one move wouldn't appease Nameless' anger? Feng Lai and Godfiend had taken care of each other in the battle just now. Ronger stood beside Yi Fan and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. When your dean's temper explodes, it's too scary. His opponent is the king of hell, the strongest in the underworld in 1,000 years. That opportunity just now was fleeting. However, Yi Fan only stared coldly at the king of hell and said fiercely, "That's the dean of our demonic academy." The king of hell clutched his chest. Finally, a trace of fear flashed across his eyes. If Nameless had made a mistake just now, it meant that Nameless had been careless. However, if he had done it on purpose, it meant that Nameless was still clear-headed even in a fit of rage. It was just that he became cruel. Lu Chen walked towards the king of hell step by step. Seeing this, the king of hell roared, "How dare you be so arrogant in front of me, the underworld ruler?" After saying that, he ignored the pain and shot towards Lu Chen. Lu Chen coldly snorted and rushed towards the king of hell at the same time. The two of them instantly met at the center of the battlefield. Solipsistic. Die for me. God of the underworld. Destruction of the three realms. A giant god's shadow appeared on King of Hell's body. Although no one knew which god it was, they could guess that it was the Lord of Underworld. Lu Chen's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets as he roared, "King of Hell! Pay with your life for the little beast." Attack of the Void. Dragon breaks the 9 heavens. There was a loud bang. The entire area, as far as the eye could see, was shaking, and the heavens were collapsing. This time, even the spiritual energy ball did not have time to form. After the super skills of both sides collided, a shocking spiritual energy storm erupted. The Immortal Army and the Puppet Army were directly pushed back by the spiritual energy storm, and many people directly spat out large mouthfuls of blood. The center of the battlefield was like the core of the scorching sun. It was impossible to look directly at it. After the black special rocks on the ground cracked, they slowly rose and were directly crushed into dust. Giant Basha was overturned on the ground, and the 9 beasts' exquisite pagoda collapsed. The 9 beasts on top of the pagoda all spat out blood. After releasing the chains, they fled in all directions. Li Wei broke free from the chains, grabbed the black bead in front of her, and hid behind the exquisite pagoda, observing the battlefield in horror. The two super experts' arms collided, and a moment later, the king of hell suddenly screamed, "My arm!" In the next second, the king of hell's left arm directly shattered. However, this time, Lu Chen did not give the king of hell any chance. He held 2 weapons with both hands, the Hellfire Silver Guts in his left hand and the Limitless Sword in his right. Tiger descends the mountain. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. Tiger descends the mountain. Way of the Spear, Empyrean Spear. Using 2 skills with both hands and with the support of Tiger descends the mountain, he attacked with double the number of attacks. Lu Chen's attacks were so fast that the naked eye could not see them clearly. The king of hell's body was hit again and again, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. "You lunatic! Stop!" The king of hell wailed in pain. However, Lu Chen did not listen to the king of hell. His attacks fell on the king of hell like raindrops. A moment later, the king of hell's body was so badly damaged that it could not be recognized. Dismembered into pieces? Far more than that. Directly cut off his bones and flesh while he was still alive. Even those who had been on the battlefield for a long time could not help but gasp at this scene. It was too bloody, too terrifying. Little Green, on the other hand, was already sobbing uncontrollably when she saw this scene. Not many people knew better than her what kind of person Lu Chen was. Back in the wilderness, when he met the butcher who was addicted to killing, Lu Chen said that he would return the favor, but in the end he could not do it and directly killed that person. He would decisively kill his enemies, but in the end he was unable to kill his enemies. However, this time he actually used such a cruel method to kill the king of hell. This could only mean that at this moment he was extremely angry. The death of Little Beast made him lose his mind. After some time, people were horrified to find that the ruler of the underworld, the king of hell, was only left with his head. Although beheading was not a terrifying thing in Jiutian, if one thought about it carefully, they would be terrified to the point that their hair stood on end. Nameless did not behead the king of hell. He only tore his body into pieces, leaving only his head. The king of hell was actually not completely dead, but this ruler of the underworld, a super powerhouse, a madman who tried to conquer the entire ninth heaven, had fear in his eyes. Lu Chen twisted the spear in his left hand, infusing it with the underworld's fire, and coldly looked at the king of hell. "You killed little beast, your sin is unforgivable." After that he stabbed the king of hell's eye socket, completely ending the king of hell. After this fierce battle, only Lu Chen was left on the battlefield. Many immortal soldiers and the puppet army were watching in shock from afar. The level of the battle just now had already left these people dumbfounded. Fortunately, even if Lu Chen's method was extremely cruel, he was still representing the Yang world in this battle. Many people finally reacted. Heavens, this is a battle between peak 6th heaven battle strength? It's too terrifying. Nameless one. Nameless. The 6th heaven is saved. I didn't expect that the one to save the 6th heaven in the end would be a human. Nameless, solipsistic, too terrifying. There were cheers all around, but Lu Chen did not seem to hear it. After killing the king of hell, Lu Chen's heart was like dead ashes. When he looked back at where little beast was, it had already disappeared. It should have been completely disintegrated. Not even a skeleton was left? Lu Chen dejectedly took 2 steps back. He said in a trembling voice, "Little beast, Dad helped you, take revenge." After that he could not help but cry. Tian carefully walked in front of Lu Chen. "Dean," Lu Chen raised his head, his eyes no longer emitted green smoke, but they were red. "Dean, please restrain your grief, but the most important thing is to stabilize the ancient shrine," Tian said softly. Lu Chen endured his grief and nodded. Since he had already come this far, he had to deal with this matter properly. "I understand." After saying that, he cut off the king of hell's evil demon horn. The moment the evil demon horn was cut off, a loud rumble came from the ancient shrine. Everyone stared at the ancient soul shrine in shock, not knowing what had happened inside. Lu Chen thought for a bit and picked up the evil demon horn. "Old E, count the casualties. Also look after Li Wei. I'll go take a look." Tian could not bear it. This person was clearly in pain, but he still had to worry about this matter. "Don't worry, leave this to us. Dean, be careful." Tian looked at Lu Chen with heartache. Lu Chen nodded and walked towards the ancient soul shrine alone. Chapter 1079. Stepping into the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Chen heard the cries of countless ghosts. This place did not seem like a palace, but more like hell. The palace was larger than Lu Chen had imagined. There was no floor inside, only a corridor against the wall. In the middle was a pitch-black abyss. The abyss was somewhat illusory, as if it was not truly deep underground, but the entrance to a black hole in another region. In the abyss, one could see countless departed souls. Their bodies were only pitch-black silhouettes that were very blurry. They hugged their heads and let out mournful wails. In the middle of the abyss, there was a dark purple bead that was currently dim. They were probably shocked by this scene. Their pain might have been caused by Lu Chen killing the king of hell right after being controlled, causing them to suddenly lose control, causing their minds to go haywire. Suddenly, someone in the abyss went crazy and tore at the surrounding departed souls. Walking up the Eternal Soul Palace floor by floor, Lu Chen saw even more abyss. This also indicated that these abyss were not true abysses. More accurately, they were open entrances to black holes. I knew it. Otherwise, how could such a small soul palace contain billions of departed souls? Lu Chen said. At the top of each abyss, there was a dim bead. However, no departed soul paid attention to this bead. They began to go crazy. Lu Chen frowned. He deduced that the king of hell was using this bead to brainwash the departed souls. However, the bead had no effect and the departed souls were becoming more and more restless. Finally, he arrived at the 7th floor. On this floor he saw 3 corpses lying in the corridor. Their deaths were very similar. There were no obvious wounds on their bodies. Their eyes were white and they were foaming at the mouth. The badge on their chests clearly wrote, 9-star Ghost King Realm. Could it be the other 3 Ghost Kings? Lu Chen frowned slightly. The 3 corpses were facing the bead at the top. There were no other intruders here. Although the 3 Ghost Kings were not as strong as the King of Hell, they were definitely not weak. Yet they had all died here. It doesn't look like he was killed in battle. He might have been devoured by the bead. With so many dead souls and so many experts among them, it was not easy to control their minds. Because of this, even if Lu Chen killed his way to Myriad's Soul Palace, these people could not leave their posts. Now that Lu Chen had killed the King of Hell, these dead souls had gone out of control. No matter how strong the 3 Ghost Kings were, they couldn't resist the backlash of so many dead souls. In the end, they died. It looks like the soul is about to go out of control. Lu Chen frowned. He only knew that he had to kill the King of Hell, but who would have thought that the 3 Ghost Kings had already taken control of the soul while they were fighting to the death? Now that it suddenly went out of control, Lu Chen was caught off guard. Lu Chen checked the Devil's Horn. Is this thing still useful? At this moment, the 2 fiend horns emitted a faint black fog, and the fog slowly flew towards the northern wall. HM? Lu Chen followed the fog and arrived in front of the wall. There were 2 circular holes in the wall, and the size was just right for the Devil's Horn. Lu Chen thought for a moment, and tried to fit the 2 Devil's Horns in. Once the Devil's Horns were fitted, they immediately transformed into a huge illusion. The tip of the illusion's Devil's Horns pointed at the bead. The originally dim bead gradually reacted, and slowly began to rotate. The dead souls in the abyss saw the bead rotate, and all raised their heads to look at the bead. It was the same on every level. The agitation of the dead souls was finally alleviated, but Lu Chen did not know how to completely restore the underworld to its original state. At this moment, the wall in front of Lu Chen emitted a dull sound, and then the wall slowly opened. There was actually another room behind the wall. Lu Chen frowned. Perhaps the key to solving this problem was in this room. The room seemed to have been meticulously arranged. It looked like a bedroom, and there was a large bed that was 3 to 4 meters long and 2 to 3 meters wide. The King of Hell's bedroom? Lu Chen said in astonishment. There were some documents and accounts beside the bed, and they were all information about the 4 main cities. There was also a book about the Myriad Ancient Soul Palace. Lu Chen looked through it, and found a lot of useful information. Lu Chen hurriedly began to look for clues, but he inadvertently saw a small image stone on the desk, and it looked very old. After Lu Chen injected spirit energy, the image stone projected an image. In the image, a small boy with a small horn on his head was following a tall and sturdy man, and they were cultivating in the courtyard. A beautiful woman smiled as she walked out of the room with fruits. The beautiful woman saw that the 2 were still cultivating, and said with a smile, "Cultivate later, eat some fruits first." The man smiled and pulled the little boy to the table. He pushed aside some unknown fruits for him. "You must be thirsty, eat more." Seeing the boy eat the fruits, the husband and wife looked at each other and smiled. The man rubbed the boy's head. "Little Ming, don't worry about what others say. It doesn't matter if our stats are lower than others. As long as we work harder than others, we might not be worse than them in the future." The boy nodded heavily. "I used the image stone to record the cultivation situation just now. You have to see what you did wrong." "Dad, I know. I will definitely work hard," the boy said firmly. The image was very short, only a few minutes long, and it recorded the most ordinary daily life. However, after Lu Chen saw it, he felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. That boy should be the King of Hell when he was young, and he once had a happy family. However, Lu Chen already knew what happened later. His mother was burned to death by her clansmen, and his father was heavily injured. Then, he killed his own father with his own hands. Such a cold-blooded person actually kept this image stone. Perhaps, in the endless years, he became the strongest person, but also the one who suffered the most. Taking a deep breath, Lu Chen let out a long sigh. Then, Lu Chen smashed the image stone with his palm. But the image stone didn't completely shatter. In the middle of the image stone, there was a slip of paper. Lu Chen picked up the small wooden tablet in surprise. There were several words written on it. If someone can obtain this slip of paper, it means that I am already dead. Then I should thank you. Because to me, death is more like a form of release. If you want to restore the underworld to its original state, you must first comprehend the concept of stardust and break down the 7 layers of floating pearls. The concept of stardust originates from the myriad soul temple. Go deep into the land of departed souls and comprehend it yourself. Lu Chen frowned. This king of hell is probably more conflicted than anyone else. Lu Chen looked at the myriad soul temple's information. Although it recorded the number of departed souls, the time, the formation, and where they went, it didn't mention how to restore the underworld to its original state. It seemed like he could only take a risk. Lu Chen walked out of the room and directly entered the land of departed souls on the top floor. Chapter 1080. Lu Chen thought that he would fall into a large number of dead souls, but in fact, he didn't plunge into a pile of dead souls. At this time, Lu Chen stood on an unknown planet. Perhaps this planet was too old, it was barren and lifeless, and the ground was still faintly shaking. This is... Lu Chen looked around in surprise, his face blank. At this time, the ground suddenly shook violently, and then, with a deafening noise, the entire planet exploded from the center. This level of explosion was far more violent than any powerhouse's move that Lu Chen had ever seen. He widened his eyes and quickly activated all the states that could be activated, protecting his whole body with Void Guard. Damn it, is this King of Hell's trap? Under the white light, Lu Chen felt that he would definitely die here this time. But strangely, he didn't feel the impact of spiritual power. Is this an illusion? Lu Chen was a little surprised, but he quickly calmed down. The violent explosion of the planet did not affect him. Lu Chen looked around. In the violent explosion, the planet's crust and core seemed to have evaporated in an instant, disappearing without a trace. With a flash of white light, there was nothing here. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Could it be that the concept of star-dust destruction was comprehended from here? The next moment, Lu Chen appeared on another planet again. This was the same as the previous planet, barren. Lu Chen could feel that the ground under his feet began to shake more and more violently. This was a sign that the planet's destruction was imminent. Even if it's real this time, I can't run away anyway. With his previous experience, Lu Chen mustered up his courage and entered the state of spiritual energy mastery and selflessness. Explosion, destruction, decomposition, annihilation. In this way, Lu Chen felt the spiritual power changes when the planet was destroyed on each dying planet. After experiencing it again and again, Lu Chen also witnessed the birth of some new planets. Is this the final result of all things? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, even planets are the same. It seems to be the exact opposite of the process of creation. I should be able to comprehend it. And those decomposed elements become the materials of a new planet, and the cycle repeats for 100 generations. The King of Hell could comprehend the destruction stardust, and Lu Chen himself could comprehend the creation space. It would be easier for him to comprehend it than the King of Hell. My creation space always feels like something is missing. Creating life is important, but most of the spiritual energy needs to rely on external forces. To form a complete system, creation alone is not enough. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen finally awoke from his trance. At this moment, the expression in his eyes was completely different from before. Raising his hand, Lu Chen created a miniature creation space and injected spiritual energy into it to form a sword shadow. Star Destroyer. Lu Chen's eyes widened. The sword shadow that had just formed suddenly disintegrated and disappeared. I've learned the Star Destroyer, but I can't fuse it with the creation space for now. Lu Chen thought about it and decided to leave first. This place could only teach him the Star Destroyer, not a place for him to fuse two great concepts, so there was no point in staying. In the depths of the Star River, Lu Chen originally couldn't find the exit, But when he saw the slowly rotating pearl above his head, he finally found the direction. The direction of the pearl should be the exit. As expected, after flying for a while, Lu Qin came out of the land of departed souls. Returning to the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Qin adjusted his state and used 9 void steps to arrive in front of the rotating pearl, slapping it with his palm. Star Destroyer. Lu Qin's Star Destroyer didn't seem to have reached the level of the King of Hell, but the surface of the pearl still changed. The pearl began to decompose on its own. It's effective, but I'll have to wait for a while. Lu Qin let out a sigh of relief and quickly entered the lower levels of the Soul Palace to decompose the 7 floating pearls. Returning to the 7th level of the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Qin watched as the pearl decomposed into starlight that fell into the land of departed souls. The departed souls didn't go berserk this time. Although their eyes were lifeless, they were exceptionally calm. Death was destruction, but at the same time, it was a new life. They needed to recognize and accept this, forget the past, and begin a new life in the underworld. The gazes of the departed souls changed. They were no longer as lifeless as before, as if they had a soul. Without the guidance of the floating pearls, I don't know how these departed souls will truly enter the underworld. Lu Qin was somewhat worried. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. I didn't think that you would be the one to restore order to the underworld. Lu Qin looked around in surprise, but he couldn't see anyone. Just listening to this old voice, Lu Qin felt it was particularly familiar. No need to look, I'm not in the underworld. The voice said, you don't need to worry about where they went. To truly forget their past life's memories, they still need to cross the bridge of helplessness. This isn't something you need to worry about. Mengpe? Lu Chen's eyes widened as he remembered the owner of the voice. Haha, you still remember me? However, you seem to have forgotten that there's a girl waiting for you. I didn't forget. However, after coming to the 6th layer of heaven, things happened one after another. My academy hasn't even opened the lower realm teleportation door, so I can't return to the 2nd layer of heaven. AI, perhaps your fate is like this. Mengpe sighed. Mengpe, is that girl still here? Lu Chen asked. Unfortunately, she didn't wait for you. Perhaps you'll meet again in the future, but at that time, I don't know if you'll be friends or foes. Lu Chen frowned. Who was that girl? What happened to her? When he had the chance, he had to go to the river of forgetfulness to retrieve her memories. Mengpe, Lu Chen still has something he wants to ask. Lu Chen suddenly thought of something. Since you're in charge of guarding the bridge of helplessness, even the departed souls have to pass by you. Then, did you see the little beast? Your battle pet? No? Could it be? Lu Chen's heart was filled with grief. Did Mengpe not remember, or did the destruction of the stardust cause the little beast's soul to scatter? Lu Chen didn't know when Mengpe had left. It was a long time before he came back to his senses. He glanced at the Eternal Soul Palace. The departed souls were no longer fighting, and order had finally been restored. He sighed and walked out of the Eternal Soul Palace. After leaving the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Chen saw a 6-petal spider lily fall next to the King of Hell. He bent down and picked it up. Little Green, this is the underworld flower, right? Boss. Little Green looked at the dazed Lu Chen with heartache. If it were any other time, he would have been jumping up and down in joy. But the little beast had died in battle. How could he be happy? It's the underworld flower, Little Green said in a low voice. Is this one enough for you? It's enough. Each person only needs 1 petal. Lu Chen nodded, put away the underworld flower, and then looked at the battlefield. On the battlefield, the immortal army was sorting out the corpses. The immortal army was weak and had suffered heavy casualties against these puppets. The original 1 million army of the dead hadn't participated in the battle for long, but now, there were only 200,000 to 300,000 of them. There was also the 6th heaven's main battlefield. Even if the King of Hell died and the Eternal Soul Palace recovered, the immortal army still needed to defeat the invading army of the dead to be considered a true victory. Who knew how many people would die in this underworld invasion? Chapter 1081. Where are the netherworld dragons? Lu Chen suddenly thought of this matter. After upgrading the dragon crystal for him, they disappeared without a trace. Even those who were seriously injured had been taken away by others. Lu Chen really hoped to find them, but he could not find any traces of them even after searching the entire battlefield. Just as Lu Chen was feeling surprised, Ma Bei and the others walked over. Nameless, we have to leave this place first. Your side is also not in a good state. If we encounter the army of the dead now, it will be difficult to deal with them. Lu Chen's dual heavens might had already expired, so he was currently in a weak state. Although the king of hell was dead, there was still a large amount of the army of the dead here. Where is Li Wei? Lu Chen asked. She fainted in front of the Twinkle Gem Pagoda. We need to send her back to the academy for treatment. The battle had just ended, so there were still many things to take care of. Lu Chen could only temporarily put aside the matter of the netherworld dragons and retreat with the immortal army. When preparing to leave the underworld, Lu Chen glanced at the underworld gate. This entrance should have been created by the king of hell. Once he recovered, he would return to close this entrance. The underworld and the yang world should not be connected. After Lu Chen and the others left, a group of people walked out from the surrounding forest. These people were the netherworld dragons. Xianlong, I told you that guy is different from the king of hell. He Rui said with a smile. Xianlong sighed. That solipsistic guy is really different. If the underworld can be restored to its original state, it would be a good thing for all the deceased souls and the various races living in the underworld. Then what about this guy? Someone behind asked. Xianlong turned around and looked at the young man wrapped in a transparent spiritual energy ball with a frown. If Lu Chen did not leave at this moment, he would definitely cry out in alarm. The young man in the spiritual energy ball was the little critter. Inside the energy ball, his body didn't continue to decompose. However, he still hadn't woken up and was floating in the middle of the energy ball. Xianlong said, now that everyone has consumed too much essence blood, we can only protect him for now. Wait for us to recover for a few days. If the solipsistic really doesn't interfere with the matters of the underworld, then we can save him. You still don't believe in solipsistic? Heirit. Xianlong shook his head. He didn't disappoint me. However, after so many years, I no longer trust anyone. After Xinyuan Continent's team returned from the underworld, Li Wei was directly sent to Fenglai Sacred Court's temporary residence in the Demonic Academy. Even though Lu Chen was a little worried, it wasn't convenient for him to head to the Women's Academy. In any case, Yao He was here. If she needed anything, Yao He would come back to find her. On the side of the Demonic Academy, the number of casualties was the least. However, among the 1,000 people who entered the underworld, more than 300 had died. Nameless, this is how war is. No one is spared. A sea of clouds shook his head and sighed. That's right. Actually, the invasion of the underworld this time affected almost all the academies in the sixth heaven. None of the academies were able to escape unscathed from this battle. The main battle hasn't ended yet. There should be more casualties. Long Xiang said. However, the good thing is that the army of the dead shouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. Long Xiang's prophecy quickly came true. On Xingyuan Continent, the army of the dead's offensive took a nosedive. After 2 or 3 defeats, they actually retreated to the underworld. On Qingza Continent, the army of the dead even directly retreated. Good news came one after another from various continents. The army of the dead, which was still very strong, started to retreat. Those who didn't retreat were quickly defeated by the defending army after a few rounds of counterattacks. At the same time, in the underworld, more and more immortal soldiers attacked the other entrances and set up defensive lines. The invasion of the army of the dead, which originally couldn't see the light of dawn, suddenly became one-sided. The army of the dead was simply unable to withstand a single blow. These few days, Li Wei didn't wake up. However, Yao He came to find Lu Chen and told him that her sister was only weak at the moment. Only then did Lu Chen heave a sigh of relief. 3 days later, Zhongxianji's Ma Bei personally came to the Demonic Academy and invited Lu Chen to participate in the conference held by Qingza Continent. Nameless, you must go. The Lord of Celestial Fortress specifically invited you to participate. After all, you saved the young world. Mabe followed behind Lu Chen and said, I'm not going. Lu Chen flatly refused. I know that you're in a bad mood after losing your beloved son and student. However, we still have to announce this matter and let the other continents know the truth. Lu Chen said faintly, the King of Hell's control over the souls of the dead has already lost its effect. The army of the dead is unable to withstand a single blow. The war is about to end. You can just inform the other continents about this matter. In a few days, I will go to the underworld again and see if I can close the entrances to the underworld. I don't want to care about anything else. This. Mabe had a difficult expression. You've already killed the King of Hell. Why are you still afraid of going to a conference? Actually, you said it yourself. The war is about to end. This time, other than announcing the matter of the underworld to the public, they're also holding a celebration party. If you, the main character, don't go, what's the point of the celebration party? We have to tell others who entered the underworld and killed the King of Hell. Hearing this, Lu Chen's expression darkened. He said unhappily, who killed the King of Hell? I'll tell you. You'll know once you see the list of the army of the dead. Lu Chen threw the book on the side of the table in front of Mabe. The book opened naturally, revealing the words on it. List of the dead, Banyan, Haoyue, Xianmeng, Tonglin. Every page was a list of the demonic academy's dead students. If they hadn't provided Lu Chen with attributes, Lu Chen would have died long ago. Mabe was speechless. This time, the army of the dead had invaded and lost countless people. Lu Chen didn't want to take all the credit for himself. Celebration party? Only the people from Celestial Fortress could think of this. None of you have any objections? Was your brain kicked by a donkey? The great Sengoku didn't dare to be angry after being scolded by Lu Chen. Whether it was Lu Chen's contributions or Lu Chen's strength, he wasn't someone as Zongshingu Sengoku could compare to. Naturally, he was scolded to be obedient. You can go. I'll go to the underworld in a few days and settle this matter. Don't bother me about the underworld. With that, Lu Chen turned and walked back to his room. Mabe looked at Lu Chen's back and sighed. How long had it been? The dean of the lower school of the divine demons actually dared to chase him out. Sigh, the pavilion master was right. This person is definitely not a fish in a pond. He'll turn into a dragon when he encounters a storm. That's why we wanted to suppress him. But now, how can we suppress this guy? Even the King of Hell was killed by him. However, he's a man of his word. With this kid's personality, he'll probably represent Zongshingu in the Prodigy competition in a few months. The Prodigy competition was the most prestigious competition in the entire sixth heaven. The prizes were plentiful, and it was also the main method for the various main schools, immortal academies, and factions to raise their reputation. However, although Nameless' strength was shocking, according to the rules of the Prodigy competition, it was unknown if this kid could enter the top 10. Chapter 1082. On the 10th day of his return, Lu Chen's weakened state was long gone, and his soul-body fusion had also fully recovered. He was also more aware of the Dragon God state. The Dragon God state was actually a true dragon attack that he could only unleash when he had exhausted his stamina. It was just that he could only use it once before, but now he could maintain this state for 30 minutes. Moreover, he had obtained super recovery ability, defense ability, and the increase in attack power was stronger than before. His attack power had increased by 200%. In addition, he also gained a super close combat single-target attack skill. Dragon breaks the 9 heavens. It was the move that Lu Chen used to defeat the King of Hell. The cooldown of this move was as long as a week. It could be used under normal conditions, but it could only be used in the Dragon God state. At the same time, with the help of the Abyss Dragon, Lu Chen's weakened state was completely eliminated. He didn't expect that this time in the underworld, he would gain a blessing in disguise. He upgraded the level of the Chaos Dragon God and learned to destroy the Stardust. However, because of the death of the little critter and the sacrifice of the students, all of this was not worth being happy about. Lu Chen sat in the room. Little Green poured him a glass of wine. The little furball was lying on the equally depressed Little Source. Xiao Min and Rhubarb were leaning on Little Source, looking listless. At this moment, the door was pushed open. Lu Chen looked up and found two super beauties standing at the door. Seeing these two people, Lu Chen's mood finally improved. Li Wei, when did you wake up? Yao He smiled and said, I woke up a few days ago, but I saw that you were in a bad mood recently, so I didn't disturb you. Li Wei nodded and walked in with Yao He. I heard that you have been drinking alone in your room all this time? Li Wei walked to Lu Chen's side. It's a pity that those students died. They had a great future. But Lu Chen, we can't protect all the students. This is their own choice. You have to respect their decision. This is the greatest affirmation for them. I think your students would also like to be recognized by you, the dean. Lu Chen sighed. They're all good. Li Wei and Yao He sat down. If that's the case, you should let it go. Oh, by the way, there's one more thing. I wanted to tell you earlier, but I've been feeling unwell for the past few days, so I didn't have the chance until now. Li Wei said. Lu Chen frowned slightly. If your body hasn't fully recovered, just let Yao He tell me. It's not that I haven't recovered, but... Li Wei said, Hey, I'll tell you later. Let's talk about your son first. Little beast? How many sons do you have? Li Wei looked at Lu Chen in surprise. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. I only have one. Of course it's him. Li Wei rolled her eyes at Lu Chen and whispered, You didn't tell me that your son is so big. Well, little beast should be alive. Hearing this, Lu Chen stood up immediately. What? Little beast is alive. It wasn't just him, the other fellows in the room also seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. Just a moment ago, they were still crestfallen, but now they suddenly surrounded Li Wei and Yao He. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Is little beast still alive? Li Wei had seen the strength of little hairy ball and originator. When these two guys fought, it was extremely bloody and cruel. Being stared at by these two ferocious beasts, Li Wei and Yao He felt a little uncomfortable. Lu Chen found that they were a little nervous, so he quickly explained, Li Wei, don't worry about them. They are very friendly. Li Wei couldn't help scolding Lu Chen in her heart. Friendly? Who are you kidding? That little white mouse looks harmless, but it eats people alive. You call that friendly? Fortunately, Li Wei was also mentally strong. Anyway, they shouldn't hurt her. When you were fighting with the King of Hell, I saw someone take little beast away. Li Wei said, They were the black dragons who came to help you. Lu Chen widened his eyes. You? Are you sure you saw it clearly? Li Wei laughed. Have you forgotten? I can see the level of the badge. How could I not see it clearly? At this moment, Lu Chen, who had been in despair, suddenly saw hope. If there was anyone who could save little beast in that situation, it would be the underworld dragon tribe. It was them who saved him when he was almost disintegrated. It's them. Although I don't know why they took little beast away, at least they wouldn't kill him. If they didn't do anything, little beast would have been disintegrated. There was no need for them to do anything. Then, it's very likely that they wanted to save him. Li Wei frowned. You're not familiar with them? Then why would they help you? Lu Chen had already thought about this question. Maybe it has something to do with the King of Hell. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's just that I haven't been able to find them after the battle. Lu Chen stood up and paced back and forth, muttering to himself. No, I have to go to the underworld. I have to find those black dragons, I have to find little beast. Just in time to close the door to the underworld over there. I want to go now. Li Wei hurriedly pulled the impatient Lu Chen. I'll go with you. I think I should be able to help. Lu Chen looked at Li Wei. You've just recovered. It's better for you to rest in the academy. Li Wei pursed her lips, thought for a moment and said, Actually, I didn't say it clearly just now. A few days ago, I felt unwell. But it's not that kind of unwell, but Lu Chen acted like he didn't understand. Li Wei, what are you talking about? Li Wei raised her head and looked at Lu Chen. Finally, she said, I seem to have become stronger, Lu Chen's eyes widened. He didn't expect that he wasn't the only one who benefited from the disaster. Li Wei had also become stronger. Since Li Wei was fine, with her strength, following Lu Chen shouldn't be a problem. Yao He didn't follow the two into the underworld. She still had many things to deal with at Fenglai Academy. Moreover, she seemed to be deliberately not following. After returning to the underworld, Li Wei suggested that Lu Chen head to the Eternal Soul Palace. When we get there, I'll see if I can find them. Lu Chen remembered that Li Wei had the ability to find people, so he should listen to her on this matter. Lu Chen summoned his shuttle and the two headed in the direction of the Eternal Soul Palace. Along the way, they saw that the four main cities were in a mess. It seemed that the four main cities had been abandoned. Instead, they saw a large number of soul weapons in the wilderness. It seems that the army of the dead is already disintegrating, Li Wei said. Lu Chen nodded. Many of the army of the dead were controlled by the King of Hell. With the King of Hell dead, they regain their freedom and naturally won't work for the army of the dead. The underworld will gradually form its own new order, but it will take some time. When the souls of the Eternal Soul Palace. Lu Chen was still speaking frankly when Li Wei suddenly turned her head and put her face in front of Lu Chen without any warning. I don't want to hear about the underworld. That pair of bright and clear eyes looked straight at Lu Chen. Her pink lips were just inches away from Lu Chen. The faint fragrance of Li Wei's body entered his nose, making him feel a little dizzy. At such a close distance, Li Wei's perfect facial features and white skin were perfect no matter how one looked at it. Lu Chen was a bit nervous. Why was this woman so close to him? There was clearly a lot of space on the heavenly shuttle. Then what do you want to hear? Lu Chen didn't know what to do. Li Wei's eyes were smiling. It'll take more than a day to reach the Eternal Soul Palace. There's only the two of us, Lu Chen frowned. Just the two of us? But Lu Chen quickly understood and nodded. Yes, the others are all ghosts. How mysterious. Chapter 1083. Li Wei's expression was a little stiff. Are you all a ghost? You're the ghost. What's in this guy's head? Was the hint I gave him not strong enough? Or is he not interested in me? Or is he very loyal to his wife, so he's rejecting me in a roundabout way? But in their previous interactions, Lu Chen didn't seem like he had a wife. Moreover, when I used the illusion, he saw my scantily clad appearance with a nosebleed. He should be very interested in me, as if he still retained his virginity. It was said that some technological worlds had the technology to cultivate embryos. Li Wei once thought that this was how Little Beast came about. Li Wei, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Lu Chen asked with concern. You've just recovered from a serious illness. Although the Underworld Dragon Clan probably won't make things difficult for us, we still have to be prepared. It's better to rest more. Li Wei blinked and came back to her senses. It seemed that Lu Chen didn't think in that direction at all. That's right, this guy's mind was probably only thinking about saving Little Beast. Oh, it's nothing. Is Little Beast really your son? I mean, the kind that reproduces normally? Li Wei sat beside Lu Chen and tilted her head to look at Lu Chen. Lu Chen looked at Li Wei and felt that there was no need to hide anything from her. He said, Little Beast is actually my battle pet, but I created Little Beast, so he calls me father. According to age, Little Beast is actually only 2 or 3 years old. It's just that that guy is growing a little faster. Li Wei finally understood. I see, Lu Chen smiled. I don't want to make this matter public. Little Beast is in human form, and I don't treat him as a battle pet. Maybe one day, he can have his own world. Li Wei nodded. Although this idea was novel, it wasn't strange if it was Lu Chen. After a moment of silence, Li Wei suddenly asked, with your strength, there should be a lot of girls who like you. Do you have a girl that you like? Speaking of personal feelings, Lu Chen helplessly shook his head. AI, how can there be that many people who like me? I can look good after transforming, but that's still a transformation. My original appearance is very ordinary. In Jiutian, it's very unremarkable. Occasionally, there are some good girls, but in the end, we're not fated. Sometimes I see some students who can't grasp the opportunity. I'm really worried for them. If it's me, I'll take them. Lu's angry. Li Wei almost vomited blood when she heard this. This person was impeccable in other aspects, but when it came to relationships, was there something wrong with his self-awareness? Take it? Turn it time. At this time, the Netherworld army was in chaos. They could barely take care of themselves, so no one paid attention to this flying shuttle. The next day, the two of them smoothly arrived at the Myriad Soul Palace area. However, the Eternal Soul Palace was currently surrounded by a black fog. The flying shuttle couldn't enter. However, Lu Chen unexpectedly discovered that Li Wei couldn't enter the defensive formation, but he could. He entered the Soul Palace to take a look. On the 7th floor of the Soul Palace was quiet and orderly. The defensive formation's spirit energy came from the King of Hell's devil horns. Perhaps it was because the devil horns recognized Lu Chen as their new master that they allowed him to enter. It seemed that the devil horns were originally a treasure of the underworld. After confirming that the Eternal Soul Palace was normal, Lu Chen walked out of the defensive formation. At this moment, a black dragon rose from the forest in the distance. The black dragon looked at Lu Chen from afar and hovered there. Lu Chen's eyes widened. He hastily called out the flying shuttle and chased after it with Li Wei. The black dragon was clearly waiting for Lu Chen. Seeing Lu Chen's group arrive, it appeared. The flying shuttle's speed couldn't compare to the black dragon's, but the black dragon didn't fly too far. It maintained a suitable distance until it entered a dense forest and disappeared. Lu Chen quickly chased after it. After landing, Lu Chen and Li Wei were shocked by the scene in front of them. This place was like a paradise. All kinds of spider lilies covered the grass. There was a small spring to the side that converged into a pool behind the village. There were several acres of fields in front of the village that were planted with unknown crops. A few plainly dressed villagers saw Lu Chen and Li Wei. They smiled at the two of them and then continued with their farm work. Nongfu Mountains spring with some fields. Lu Chen sighed. This kind of leisurely life was truly enviable. From the expressions of these villagers, Lu Chen was even more certain that they had no ill intentions. At this moment, He Rui walked over. "Solipsistic, you're here? We've been waiting for you for a long time." Lu Chen slightly cupped his fists. "I didn't have time to thank you last time before I left. Let's talk inside." He Rui's attitude was kind. He smiled at Li Wei and said, "You must be that girl from the Heavenly Fox clan. Since you're Solipsistic's friend, come along." "Thank you." Lu Chen and He Rui followed into a farmhouse. This should be the largest house in the village. When they arrived, Lu Chen found that there were already 20 to 30 people waiting. When these people saw Lu Chen, they all stood up and nodded at Lu Chen with a smile. Sitting in the middle were Xianlong and the old man. Both of them also stood up. "Solipsistic, you're here." Lu Chen walked over and cupped his fists. "Greetings, seniors. We meet again." Speaking of which, this was the third time they had met. "Brother Du Kuang, Miss Li Wei, come and sit." The old man called out. "We don't dare to call ourselves seniors. We're just a little older." "Speaking of which, you've saved our Netherworld Dragon clan twice. We should be calling you our benefactor." Lu Chen said, "Senior, you're exaggerating. The first time was a coincidence. The second time was because of your help that I was able to kill the King of Hell. Regardless of whether it was a coincidence or not, at least we've confirmed that you're a friend of our Netherworld Dragon clan." The old man said. Lu Chen looked at the people around him in surprise and asked, "I remember that there should be more than 50 of you. Why are there only these people left? Don't tell me you're here to help me upgrade my dragon crystal?" The old man smiled. "Brother Du Kuang, you're really too righteous. Don't worry, they've only used up too much blood essence. They'll be fine after a few years of rest." "They'll be fine after a few years of rest?" Why did the Netherworld Dragon make it sound like a few days of rest? Xianlong looked at Lu Chen. He had always been wary of Lu Chen. However, after the Aeon Shrine restored order, Lu Chen no longer interfered with the matters of the underworld. He even left the underworld god's horn in the underworld. It could be seen that he had no intention of invading the underworld. At this moment, The way he looked at Lu Chen was no longer filled with wariness like before. Solipsistic, you're obviously worried to death, but you didn't mention anything about the beast god. Xianlong suddenly said. Not only did you not forget your manners, it also shows that you're a person who can keep calm. Lu Chen looked at Xianlong. Since the other party took the initiative to ask, he naturally had to ask. May I ask, little beast, is he still alive? Lu Chen was so nervous that he couldn't speak coherently. Xianlong's lips curled up. You've saved our Netherworld Dragon Clan twice, and we've also helped you twice. Now we're even. Look who's behind you. Lu Chen suddenly turned around and saw a youth standing at the door with red eyes. Dad. Little beast dodged and pounced on Lu Chen, pushing him down along with his chair. Chapter 1084. Ever since Lu Chen returned to the Yang world, he had never laughed so happily. There were tears in his laughter, but it was a joy that came from the bottom of his heart. Seeing the father and son reunited, Li Wei couldn't help but cry. That's great, the little beast is fine. However, Li Wei was definitely more rational than Lu Chen. She suddenly thought of a problem and asked Xianlong, excuse me, is the little beast still alive or... Seeing the little beast in the underworld, they couldn't be sure if the little beast was still alive. Xianlong smiled. The dragon blood of us underworld dragons has the ability to eliminate the destruction of stardust. However, we had just helped the solipsistic upgrade the dragon species, so we exhausted ourselves and could only temporarily save the little beast. We only managed to revive it after a few days of rest. Hearing Xianlong's words, Li Wei finally relaxed. Lu Chen finally recovered from the joy of the little beast's revival. He stood up and bowed deeply to the underworld dragons. I can't thank you enough. If there's anything you need me for in the future, feel free to look for me. Xianlong smiled. Solipsistic, we've already said that we helped you twice, and you saved us twice. We're even now, no one owes anyone anything. If we look for you in the future, it's not to ask you to return the favor, but to ask for your help at most. Lu Chen smiled. The underworld dragon's temperament was somewhat similar to his. Dad, did little Furball and the others miss me? The little beast asked happily. I want to quickly go back and see them. Lu Chen nodded. There's one more thing that's been resolved. I'll bring you back to see them. Lu Chen looked at Xianlong and the old man. The army of the dead is quickly being defeated, but there's still one more thing that's not resolved. It'll be a hidden danger. You're talking about the gates of the underworld? Xianlong asked. Lu Chen nodded. The underworld and the Yang world shouldn't be connected. If a large number of gates of the underworld are opened, it'll definitely bring a lot of hidden dangers. I don't know how to close these gates of the underworld. Xianlong immediately said, if we allow the underworld gate to open, it will affect the order of the underworld. You don't have to worry if it's not enough. These entrances didn't originally exist. They're like wounds on your body. They'll heal on their own after a few days. You only need to have the people of the Yang world seal the entrances. In 3 to 5 years, those entrances will disappear. Lu Chen nodded. So that's how it is. I'll get the people from Celestial Fortress to inform them. Now that the matters of the underworld were finally settled, Lu Chen could leave the underworld with peace of mind. After Lu Chen returned, he told Ma Bei about the gate of the underworld. It just so happened that when they attended the General Assembly, he would let Celestial Fortress announce it. A few days later, the continents began to push out the entrances to the underworld and seal the exits from the Yang world. At this moment, there were only sporadic battles left on the main battlefield. Without a doubt, the Netherworld realm could no longer cause any waves. Little Critter returned to the team. Lu Chen's house was almost torn down by Little Critter and the others. Lu Chen also had a headache. These 3 guys fought every day. He couldn't calm down for even a moment. Since a lot of people thought that Little Critter was a human, Lu Chen simply beat them at their own game. He let Little Critter join the Demonic Academy and live with the students. A sea of clouds led some of the students and began to fill up the secret passage on the Cliff of Reflection. With Lu Chen overseeing the academy, the Demonic Academy didn't need the help of other academies to defend it. Mabe participated in the celebration banquet organized by Celestial Fortress. However, he followed Lu Chen's words and credited the dead students. He didn't mention Lu Chen's name. He had no choice. He was also afraid of offending Lu Chen. 2 months later, except for the heavily guarded entrance to the Netherworld realm, the Yang world began to slowly restore its former order. All the major academies had different degrees of sacrifice in this war. During the recruitment of new students, the major academies launched a fierce competition again, especially the academies that participated in the main battlefield. Some academies even lost more than 2/3 of their members. In view of this, Zhong Xiangu stipulated that within a year, the academies that participated in the main battlefield would have priority in recruitment. The other academies behind would temporarily suspend the right to take the initiative to participate in the recruitment. Originally, Zhong Xiangu wanted to give the Demonic Academy special privileges. However, in this major issue, Lu Chen gave up the privilege. The Demonic Academy sacrificed more than 300 students to open the portal. The opening of the main spiritual vein had to be delayed. Although Lu Chen gave up the right to recruit new students, the Demonic Academy's reputation had spread in Shangzi mainland. Even if the Demonic Academy didn't send people to recruit new students, there were still many new students who went to the Demonic Academy for an interview. This was something that Lu Chen didn't expect. Lu Chen naturally had no reason to refuse people who took the initiative to come to him. He specially set up a recruitment site in the academy for the new students to undergo the test space here. In this way, without any publicity, the Demonic Academy could maintain the speed of a few new students every day and develop slowly. At the same time, the Demonic Academy established exchanges with more outer courts. A large number of students went to the outer courts to study. After experiencing this war, the enthusiasm of the Demonic Academy's students for cultivation was unprecedentedly high. Those self-righteous students were now more motivated than the other. Yi Fan, Chu Tian, Xiao Zhan, Wu Xian, Skyfall, and other super-strong new students often cultivated for half a month. The new students were also affected and mistakenly thought that they had entered a very competitive academy. Senior sister, are you cultivating so hard to compete for the demonic god list? A new student looked at his senior brothers and sisters who were cultivating seriously in the martial arts field and was confused. The rewards for the demonic god list were the lowest in the Shangzi mainland. Everyone was a genius. Who didn't have some stock? Why would they care about this little bit of resources? The senior sister shook her head. The demonic god list? That's something that only the outer court exchange students care about. The inner court students only go there to verify their combat ability. Then I see that these senior brothers and sisters don't care about what's going on outside. They are all cultivating with all their might. Don't they need to rest? Rest? The senior sister looked at the new student in surprise. Do you know the dean's strength? I've heard about it. It's said that he's very strong. Very strong? Let me tell you this. Our dean is actually a new student, but I'm not exaggerating at all. His current combat ability has reached the peak of the 6th heavenly layer. What? Peak of the 6th heavenly layer? That's impossible. I know that the Demonic Academy is very strong, but isn't it a bit exaggerated to say that his combat ability is at the peak of the 6th heavenly layer? The senior sister snorted. If the dean didn't say not to mention the underworld, she would have slapped his face on the spot. Forget it. The dean's order was to let the 6th heavenly layer remember the heroes who died in battle and not just him. She wouldn't break the rules. In short, cultivate well. There are many people with better aptitudes than you. The more they are, the more hardworking you will be in cultivation. Because the strongest dean is in front of us. We can't lose face for him. The new student was a bit confused, but seeing was believing. His test score of 7 points was not enough to rank in the top 100 of the Demonic Academy. Since his senior brothers and sisters were working so hard, he had to work harder. Chapter 1085. Lu Chen had been very lonely recently. The students were all cultivating, and the instructors had added one class after another. The group of old men were almost exhausted to death. There were people cultivating in the martial arts practice field every day, or sparring in the arena. Even the previously sloppy Xiao Zhan seemed to have changed into a different person recently. He spent every day in the library. He wanted to find someone to accompany him to the foot of the mountain to buy a few sets of clothes for little beast, but there was no one. Chu Tian, accompany me down the mountain? Lu Chen saw Chu Tian passing by and hurriedly greeted him. That you should find someone else. I have an appointment with Wu Xian at the arena. I'm not free. Chu Tian walked away heartlessly. Skyfall? Skyfall, let's go down the mountain? Dean, that I asked someone to help me occupy the meditation pavilion. If you don't go, there won't be any. You can go by yourself. Skyfall disappeared in a flash. Lu Chen was really speechless. He was a dignified dean, and he couldn't even find someone? Was there no one in the academy who knew how to flatter? What was the point of cultivating so hard? Our academy didn't need so many top students. Damn it. Lu Chen shook his head helplessly and returned to his room in boredom. After Lu Chen left, Skyfall and Chu Tian stood at a distance and sighed in relief. That old pervert wants to drag down our cultivation again. He's too sinister. Exactly. He thinks that everyone is like him, reaching the peak of the 6th celestial layer in a few months. We must guard against him. Let's go. If the dean sees us, we'll be in trouble. In front of the mountain gate, after Zhong Xinji's people landed, they realized that no one from the demonic academy welcomed them. If it was another academy, the dean would definitely be scolded. However, when they looked up at the plaque in front of the mountain gate, they could only shake their heads and go up the mountain themselves. The demonic academy. In this place, no one dared to behave atrociously. Mabe Immortal King, do you think Nameless will agree to participate in the prodigy competition? Huang Xian Sengoku was still a little nervous. I think so. After all, we had an agreement. He's not a person who goes back on his word, Mabe said. Soon, the two of them arrived at the demonic academy. To be honest, if this was my first time here, I might have thought that this was Immortal Academy. Huang Xian looked at those Fiend God Academy disciples. It's not just Immortal Academy. The lowest standard here has already been raised from 6 minutes in the testing space to 7 minutes. In other words, the lowest standard here is already higher than many Immortal Academy disciples. Mabe understood the Demonic Academy quite well. With a little more time, the Demonic Academy will become a top academy in the 6th heaven. As they spoke, the two of them arrived at Lu Chen's residence. There was not a single guard in front of Lu Chen's residence. The two of them knocked on the door directly. Come in. A nameless voice came from inside. The two of them pushed the door open and entered. Wang Xian? Lu Chen looked at the two visitors strangely. Why are the two of you here? My nameless brother, we have an important matter to ask you to come out of seclusion. Mabe took out a pot of good tea the moment he arrived. It was Sengoku Pavilion's Immortal Wind Jade Leaf. Lu Chen invited the two of them to sit down and let Xiaomin brew the tea. Do you still remember the prodigy tournament that I mentioned before? Mabe asked with a smile. There are still 3 months before the prodigy tournament begins. We would like to invite you to represent Prosperous Origin Continent. Lu Chen frowned slightly. This was not the first time he had heard of the prodigy tournament. Previously, Heavenly Music Pavilion also wanted him to participate. It was just that his strength back then was not as strong as it was now. It's not suitable for me to participate in this kind of tournament, Lu Chen said. When Mabe heard that the other party did not directly reject him, he felt that there was a chance. He hurriedly explained, it's like this. The prodigy tournament does not take into account one's cultivation level, current battle strength, or identity. As long as one has been in the 6th heaven for 2 years, they can participate. Each continent will choose a contestant with the most potential to represent their own continent in the tournament. Finally, according to the ranking, the continent will be rewarded and the individual will be rewarded. Of course, the most important thing is the increase in reputation. Lu Chen was still a little interested in such a large-scale tournament. It just so happened that he had been bored recently. Lu Chen asked curiously, if the tournament does not take into account these things, what do we watch? Don't tell me it's a lantern festival or riddles or something. I'm not good at that. Mabe smiled and said, Of course not. It's just that if you want to win in the Prodigy tournament, you must be both intelligent and courageous, and have quick reflexes. Oh, and most importantly, your luck must not be too bad. Lu Chen was a little troubled. Just by listening to Mabe's words, he felt that he was not suitable for the Prodigy tournament. Luck did not seem to be outstanding for him. However, Lu Chen still asked, Mabe, can you tell me the rules of the Prodigy tournament in detail? Mabe nodded coquettishly. After the Prodigy tournament begins, all contestants' attributes will be locked at the same value, so their skills, battle souls, even battle pets, equipment, and backpacks will all be sealed. All sealed? Yes, all sealed. That is to say, no matter how strong you are before, in the Prodigy tournament, your attributes and abilities will be no different from others at the beginning. And then? Lu Chen asked. Then, you will enter a brand new continent. The continent will not be too big, but it will not be small either. If you are not strong enough, it will not be easy to meet an opponent there. In this continent, there are all kinds of equipment, clothes, skills, battle pets that can be directly controlled, puppets, and even attribute pills, resistance pills, and elemental pills. These items are of different levels, and the contestants will randomly find these equipment to equip themselves. They will rely on these equipment and skills to eliminate other contestants. After eliminating other contestants, you can obtain all the items on them. Of course, the total number cannot exceed the limit of your temporary backpack. Those who enter the top 10 will be rewarded. Lu Chen frowned slightly. The rules of this Prodigy tournament seemed to be somewhat similar to a game that he had played before. No wonder it was said that it had nothing to do with the contestants' current strength. Everyone's attributes were the same at the beginning. Back then, the Heavenly Music Pavilion had taken a fancy to him. At that time, he was not strong enough. It seemed that it was also because of the rules of the Prodigy tournament. If the rules of the tournament were like this, if the contestants picked up some super powerful skill as soon as he arrived on that continent, he could be eliminated directly. That sounds interesting. Lu Chen murmured. Are there any restrictions on the battle? At the beginning of the Prodigy tournament, the initial attributes that are locked are very low, far lower than everyone's true attributes. When the opponent's attack overflows, their own attributes will be automatically unlocked. Basically, no one will die. Lu Chen frowned and said, I can participate in the tournament. But to be honest, I can't guarantee that I will get a good ranking. My luck is sometimes good and sometimes bad. Of course, no one can guarantee that they will get a good result in the Prodigy tournament, but we believe in your judgment, combat experience, and adaptability. Also, the Prodigy tournament will be transmitted through the shadow stones of the major academies. At that time, your badge will be written Zhongxian Gu Demonic Academy. This is also an opportunity to increase the popularity of the Demonic Academy. Lu Chen thought about it and said, Okay, I'll participate. Chapter 1086. It seemed that there was nothing much to prepare for the Prodigy competition. Lu Chen wandered around the school all day, and the students were afraid of such a leisurely principal. They would hide far away when they saw him, afraid that they would be dragged down the mountain to go shopping with him. Not even giving me a chance to worry about the students' studies? Lu Chen sighed and went down the mountain alone. As the Prodigy competition approached, the school began to discuss this matter. Unknowingly, the news of Lu Chen representing Xinyuan continent in the Prodigy competition had spread. It was the first time for most people to participate in the Prodigy competition, so they couldn't help but discuss this most eye-catching competition in the entire sixth heaven. It's said that the Prodigy competition's rewards are especially rich. I wonder if the principal can win the championship. Win the championship? Although the principal is very strong, you've seen the rules of the Prodigy competition. Under such rules, it's equivalent to the original strength being useless. Everyone is back to the same starting line. Although the rules are disadvantageous to the principal, the fact that he was chosen shows that the Zhongxian Gu thinks highly of him. Even if his original skills and battle soul equipment are sealed, The principal's combat experience and reaction speed are all top-notch. You're right, but do you know why it's called the Prodigy competition? Prodigies must have great luck. Think about it, tens of thousands of people randomly appearing in a new continent to obtain items. The randomness is too great. I think so too. It can only be said that in the Prodigy competition that gathers the most outstanding combat prodigies from all the continents, those who can obtain a ranking are definitely experts. However, experts may not be able to obtain a ranking. The Black Armor King smelled a business opportunity and had already set up a gambling house in the school. Even Yi Fan, who had earned 70 to 80,000 spirit stones by helping his fellow disciples clean, deliver meals, accompany them in training, and keep secrets, could not help but bet that the principal would not be able to enter the top 10. Yi Fan, are you sure that the principal won't be able to enter the top 10? Yi Fan narrowed his eyes and nodded firmly. The main thing is that this is more stable. There were tens of thousands of people, and only 10 people would be able to enter the top 10. In such a random competition, coupled with the principal's ordinary luck, it was very likely that he would be turned into a box. Therefore, by betting on this item, there was a high chance that he would be able to make a small profit. Chu Tian followed closely behind and bet 200,000. I also think that he won't be able to enter the top 10. This isn't just a competition of battle strength. Think about how unlucky the dean was when he first came to the sixth heaven. He lost his family, his arm was broken, his body was weak, and I heard from the little beast that he almost died. With his luck, I think he will be eliminated very soon. Everyone nodded. That makes sense. Xiao Zhan pondered for a moment. The dean was indeed strong, but that was another matter altogether. Should he seriously analyze the situation? Forget it. Chu Tian was more astute. He felt that he should be able to earn money by following him. After saying that, he took out an 8 million spirit stones card and placed it in front of the Black Armor King. Senior brother, you won't be able to enter the top 10. At this moment, a hand grabbed a handful of spirit stones and fiercely placed it on the first bet position. I'll bet on this 1,000 spirit stones. Everyone looked over and saw that it was the little beast. Little beast, the dean only gives you 500 spirit stones a month as pocket money. If you make a mistake, you will be eating dust for the next few months. Xiao Zhan reminded. The little beast said indifferently, I'm running out of money, so I'll borrow from you. In these few months, the little beast had become familiar with them. Yi Fan rubbed his chin and asked very seriously, Little beast, tell me honestly, do you know some inside information? If you have money, it's not good enough if you don't help us earn it. The little beast shook its head. What inside information? Aren't all the skills sealed? I just think that this has the highest odds. Yi Fan took a deep breath. This guy's way of thinking was indeed different from normal people. He still couldn't trust him. A few days before the Prodigy competition, Zhong Xiangu sent people over again. This time, they were here to pick up Lu Chen. Zhong Xiangu prepared a new badge for Lu Chen. This badge didn't show his cultivation level, only the words, Zhong Xiangu Demonic Academy. When others saw it, they would know that this contestant was from Zhong Xianji's Demonic Academy. Nameless, 2 days later, you will be going to the Zijin continent, which is the continent for this competition. We can't enter. When the time comes, there will be people from the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace to receive you. When the time comes, you just have to do as they say. Mabe reminded. Lu Chen nodded. I'll remember one thing. In case they don't seal all your abilities, for example, your dragon god form. However, you must not use it during the competition. Once you use any abilities other than the items you have obtained, you will be immediately disqualified. The entire competition will be broadcasted by the Illusion Realm map and Shadow Stone. You must remember. Lu Chen felt that Mabe was even more nervous than him, constantly reminding him about this and that. Got it, Mabe? Lu Chen smiled. Before you leave, the pavilion master will personally host a banquet to send you off. Remember to come to Cloud Immortal Mountain tomorrow night. Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. Mabe, you're too nervous? You've already told me so many times on the way here. Speaking of which, Is this competition so important to Zhongxingu? Of course it's important. Ma Bei said. The reward for this competition is very attractive. What reward? Lu Chen asked. Ma Bei looked at Lu Chen. He had a feeling that this guy wasn't too serious. It seemed like there was a need to provoke him a little. In the 7th Heaven Tong Tian Tower, there are no heaven domain bosses. Did you know that? Ah. Lu Chen was stunned. He really didn't know about this. Then how do we enter the 7th heaven? Ma Bei said, what I said might not be accurate. It's not that there aren't any bosses. It's just that the boss of the 6th floor of Tong Tian Tower is heaven's tribulation. In other words, you need to break through the peak of human king realm. To go to the 7th heaven, you don't have to pass the tribulation successfully, but you have to at least survive it. In the 7th heaven, even if you're not a true immortal, you have to at least be an itinerant immortal. Lu Chen's eyes widened. No wonder he had never heard of the 6th heaven domain boss. Ma Bei continued, you might think that we Zhongxingu are deceiving ourselves too much. We like to call ourselves immortal, Sengoku, or immortal supremacy. But in fact, this is our Zhongxinji's culture. We hope that someone can really pass the tribulation and become an immortal. And in a competition like the Prodigy competition, the reward is usually a tribulation pill. Tribulation pill? Lu Chen asked curiously. Yes, tribulation pill. It can protect you from death. Even if you fail, you can at least become a rogue immortal. Lu Chen's eyes widened. This kind of reward was indeed very tempting. A tribulation pill was equivalent to at least becoming a rogue immortal. No wonder even the headquarters of Zhongxingu cared so much about it. Nameless. In the past Prodigy competition, only the top 3 would get the tribulation pill. But this time, as long as you enter the top 10, you will get it. This kind of opportunity is hard to come by. If you can enter the top 10 and get a tribulation pill for Zhongxingu, we will give your demonic academy a lot of resources. You will definitely be satisfied. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He didn't need the tribulation pill at the moment. In comparison, the academy's resources were more important. Got it. Lu Chen said in a deep voice. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.